Chapter 1735. Feng Shishi's eyes kept changing. It was clear that her heart was fluctuating greatly. In the end, she slowly opened her mouth. If the Empyrean Fairy agrees to save Tang Zheng, I am willing to withdraw and help them. What? Everyone was shocked. They never thought that Feng Shishi's words would be so shocking, actually saying such words. What this meant, everyone was very clear. Her so-called withdrawal was to leave Tang Zheng, fly far away, and never see him again. This was a very painful thing for her, it was hard to imagine, but she still said it so casually. It was easy to imagine the shock in everyone's heart. Of course, she was not willing to leave Tang Zheng, but for Tang Zheng's life, she was willing to make this sacrifice and hand Tang Zheng over to the Empyrean Fairy. Yi Dingdang indignantly said, "Sure, how can you bear to leave Tang Zheng?" Feng Shishi's expression was firm, her teeth bit her lips until they turned white, and said, "Of course I am not willing. But in order to save Tang Zheng, I am willing to give up everything, even my life." These words were powerful and resonant, like a heavy hammer striking the bottom of everyone's hearts. They looked at each other in dismay, their eyes silently communicating, and gradually they understood each other's thoughts. Mu Hongyan was the first to stand and said, "If the Empyrean Fairy saves Tang Zheng, I am also willing to leave him." "I am also willing." Marshall followed closely behind. Lu Qingmei took a step forward and stood beside Mu Hongyan. Although she did not say a word, her actions and expression said everything. She was also willing to make this sacrifice. Li Xiaotian took a deep breath. Although he was not willing, he still followed the crowd and said, "I am also willing to withdraw." The only one left was Yi Dingdang. Her expression kept changing, her eyes moving around everyone. Her lips were bitten to the point of bleeding, and 2 lines of tears flowed out. "If the Empyrean Fairy can really save her, I'm willing." She seemed to have used up all the strength in her body to say those words. Her whole body was soft, and if Feng Shishi hadn't hurriedly supported her, she would have fallen to the ground. At this point, everyone had reached a consensus. In order to save Tang Zheng's life, they were willing to make such a huge sacrifice. "What do we do next?" Li Xiaotian asked. Everyone looked at each other, and in the end, their eyes fell on Feng Shishi. She bravely stepped forward and said, "I'll go find the Empyrean Fairy. I'll talk to her." "I'm going too," Yi Dingdang said tearfully. The others were eager to give it a try, obviously wanting to go as well. Mu Hongyan shook her head and said, "No, we have so many people. The Empyrean Fairy will think that we are bullying her with numbers. As long as we can save Tang Zheng. So what if we bully her with numbers?" Li Xiaotian said coldly. Back then, her memories had been erased, and she had become a blank sheet of paper. However, over time, some of Li Xiaotian's innate personality had gradually revealed itself. Feng Shishi thought for a while, and then tactfully declined, "I'll go alone. I definitely won't let everyone down. I'll definitely make her agree. Then we'll wait for your news." Feng Shishi struck while the iron was hot. She turned around and walked out. After all, Tang Zheng didn't have much time left. Every second was a race against time. The Empyrean Fairy lay on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. Everything that had happened during the day was inexplicable to her. Lan Yu had actually asked her to save Tang Zheng. She was very clear on how to save Tang Zheng. Her calm heart couldn't help but be stirred up. She turned over and thought in annoyance, "Lan Yu is really unreasonable. She wants me to save him, and she's using this kind of method. What kind of person does she think I am?" Dong dong dong. The sound of knocking came from the door. The Empyrean Fairy pricked up her ears and asked, "Who is it?" "It's me. Are you asleep?" Feng Shishi's voice squeezed in through the crack in the door. The Empyrean Fairy sat up and stared suspiciously at the door. Why was Feng Shishi looking for her in the middle of the night? She hesitated for a moment, then waved her hand. The door creaked open. She got off the bed and walked towards the door. Feng Shishi walked in, and their eyes met. The atmosphere became a bit strange. The Empyrean Fairy asked suspiciously, "It's so late. Why are you looking for me?" "I have something important to discuss with you," Feng Shishi said in a serious tone. The Empyrean Fairy's heart was in her throat. She looked at Feng Shishi with a burning gaze. The two of them rarely had such a heavy atmosphere. "What is it?" "I'm all ears." After the Empyrean fairy invited Feng Shishir to sit down, she sat down on the side and waited. Feng Shishir did not hesitate and said directly, "There are still 20 days until Tang Zheng's 20th birthday. His pure yang energy will completely erupt on that day. At that time, we won't know whether he's dead or alive. Therefore, it's very likely that he will die." Hearing this, the Empyrean fairy's heart moved. Her expression also became serious, but she did not interrupt Feng Shishir. She was all ears. During the spring festival, his pure yang energy had already erupted once. Fortunately, he used the extreme yang energy to temporarily suppress the agitated pure yang energy. But now, not only has his cultivation increased, his birthday is coming soon. This is a double test. If he's not careful, he will explode from the pure yang energy and die. Feng Shishir's gaze never left the Empyrean fairy, as if she wanted to observe her reaction. "So, you want me to save him?" the Empyrean fairy asked. Feng Shishir nodded. "Do you know what this means?" the Empyrean fairy asked in a deep voice. "I know. We have already discussed it. If you are willing to save him, we are willing to withdraw and fulfill your wish." Feng Shishir took a deep breath and used a lot of strength to say this sentence. The Empyrean fairy was stunned. She did not expect Feng Shishir to raise this condition. She asked in astonishment, "Who are you?" "Me, Ding Dang, Sister Mu, Sister Mei, Wu and Li Xiaotian." The Empyrean fairy said their names one by one. "This is our decision, so you don't have to worry about me deceiving you." The Empyrean fairy's expression became interesting. She said meaningfully, "You mean that you are willing to save Tang Zheng and then leave him and let me be with him?" "Yes." Feng Shishir nodded heavily. "As long as you save him." The Empyrean fairy sized up Feng Shishir. The other's actions were out of her expectations. In addition, there were really too many people who cared about Tang Zheng. During the day, it was Lan Yu. At night, it was Feng Shishir. They took turns to force her to agree. The Empyrean fairy was a proud person. How could she be manipulated by others? Her expression gradually became gloomy. She stared at Feng Shishir aggressively and said, "Do you think I will agree just because you want me to?" "Hee, I won't." "You refuse?" Feng Shishir was shocked. "You have a close relationship with Tang Zheng. Are you willing to watch him explode and die?" The Empyrean fairy's heart thumped, but she still said resolutely, "Everyone has their own fate. If he really explodes and dies, then that is his fate. So please go back." Chapter 1736. The Empyrean fairy gazed at the door with a complicated expression. This group of people actually dared to suggest such an outrageous idea. How preposterous. Her mind couldn't help but flash back to Tang Zheng bits and pieces. The two of them had met in the ancient tomb. If not for Tang Zheng's rescue, she would probably still be in a deep sleep. Even if she woke up, it would still be difficult for her to escape from the first emperor of Qin. In short, her fate would have been completely different. Because of Tang Zheng, she had truly regained her freedom. Then along the way, she had fought side by side with Tang Zheng and weathered through many ups and downs. The relationship between the two was quite thought-provoking. Phew! The Empyrean fairy shook her head fiercely. Even she herself didn't know what the relationship between the two of them was or what it meant. She simply decided to ignore it. If anyone were to disturb her with this matter in the future, she would definitely chase them out. Knock, knock. Not long after, a series of knocks sounded from the door. The Empyrean fairy's brows trembled as she stared fixedly at the door like two raised swords. Could it be that Feng Shishir had returned? Or was it someone else? "Who is it?" the Empyrean fairy asked in an annoyed tone. "Yao, it's me." The Emperor of Heaven's voice squeezed through the crack in the door. "Father." The Empyrean fairy was shocked. She quickly walked over to the door and saw that it was indeed the Emperor of Heaven. She asked in astonishment, "Father, what business do you have with me?" The Emperor of Heaven looked at her kindly and asked, "Can't I come to see you?" The Empyrean fairy shook her head hurriedly. "Of course not." The Emperor of Heaven entered the room and looked around. "Your room is too simple. A girl's room should be more decorated and warm." The Empyrean fairy broke into laughter. "I've long since passed that age. I'm old." "Nonsense. My daughter isn't old. She's still so young and lovable." The Emperor of Heaven couldn't wait to correct him. Besides, my daughter hasn't found her ideal husband yet. How can you say that I'm old? Ideal husband. These 4 words made the Empyrean fairy feel strange. She looked at the Emperor of Heaven in astonishment, not knowing why he would mention this. The Emperor of Heaven didn't seem to notice the strange look in the Empyrean fairy's eyes as he continued. Yao, do you have a Mr. Right in your heart? Father, why are you asking this question? Hee, I was just casually asking. After all, as parents, we all want to see our children happy and complete their lives. The Emperor of Heaven said with a smile. My life is complete, said the Empyrean fairy. The Emperor of Heaven's expression turned cold as he solemnly said, men and women should get married when they grow up. You haven't even gotten married yet, so how can your life be considered complete? Who said that women must get married? The Empyrean fairy asked with a frown. The Emperor of Heaven looked at his daughter suspiciously and said, Yao, have you been corrupted by the so-called freedom of thought? You can't be like some women nowadays. If a girl doesn't get married, what kind of scandal is that? Then why didn't you urge me to get married in the past? In the past. The Emperor of Heaven was slightly startled. In the past, when you were corrupted by purine energy, your life was more important. How could you have the leisure to talk about marriage? Now that you no longer have this concern, you naturally have to think about marriage. The Empyrean fairy really wanted to roll her eyes. She had overlooked a problem. Her father was someone from the ancient times, so his thinking was completely different from modern people. The Empyrean fairy had stayed in modern society for too long and was imperceptibly influenced. Her thinking was also more modern, so she wasn't in a hurry to talk about marriage. Who would have thought that the first thing the Emperor of Heaven did after returning to the mortal world was to urge her to get married? Seeing that his daughter was speechless, the Emperor of Heaven guessed a bit of her thoughts and sternly said, Yao, you've already been delayed for so many years, and now you can't continue to delay. So, right now, my number 1 priority is your marriage. Father, when did you become so sentimental? You're like an old woman. The Empyrean fairy helplessly said. Most parents are like this. Is there a problem? I don't think there's a problem. The Emperor of Heaven replied with a question. The Empyrean fairy was stunned. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and had no words to say. The Emperor of Heaven continued to say, Quickly tell Father, who is your sweetheart? I don't have a sweetheart. The Empyrean fairy's cheeks reddened. The Emperor of Heaven sternly said, If you don't have one, then I'll recommend you one. What do you think of that brat Tang Zheng? Tang Zheng. The Empyrean fairy was shocked. Her expression became interesting. Father, why are you like this? If you don't have a sweetheart, then I can only choose one for you. As the saying goes, the parent's orders and the matchmaker's words. How can my judgment be wrong? The Emperor of Heaven said in a clear voice. His tone and expression were indisputable. The Empyrean fairy's face became even redder. She muttered in her heart. Why did so many things happen in one day? It was as if they had discussed it beforehand and wanted to set her up with Tang Zheng. Could it be that Tang Zheng had instigated them to come? Was this his intention? His heart couldn't help but beat fiercely a few times. There was actually a strange feeling in his heart. You don't have any objections, right? Then it's decided. The Emperor of Heaven said. Father, wait a moment. Who said I agreed? The Empyrean fairy hurriedly cried out. This is my own matter. How can I make such a hasty decision? The Emperor of Heaven's expression became stern. Who said it was hasty? This is the conclusion I came to after careful consideration and careful investigation. Although that brat Tang Zheng has many shortcomings, he is currently the most suitable candidate. Why is he the most suitable candidate? The Empyrean fairy helplessly asked. Think about it. Among the current generation of outstanding individuals, who is the strongest? Naturally, it would be this brat. Moreover, his character is only so he is barely a match for you. The Emperor of Heaven explained. The Empyrean fairy looked at her father with a burning gaze. Suddenly, her heart stirred. Father, was it Tang Zheng who came looking for you? He came looking for me? For what? The Emperor of Heaven was confused. If he didn't come looking for you, then who told you to come here? The Empyrean fairy asked suspiciously. Do I need someone else to come looking for me? Of course, This is my own decision. This is my responsibility as a father. I don't need someone else to tell me what to do.
The Emperor of Heaven said righteously as he raised his head high.
Really? The Empyrean fairy was skeptical.
She sized up the Emperor of Heaven from head to toe.
Of course it's true. The Emperor of Heaven couldn't help but feel a bit guilty under his daughter's gaze. In fact, he wasn't telling the truth.
Although there was a hint of it in the gate of heaven, he had temporarily thrown it to the back of his mind.
Now that the matter had been brought up again, it was all because of Lan Yu and Wu Junshan. This pair of parents who were worried sick for their son had personally come to the Emperor of Heaven to persuade him. The Emperor of Heaven's thoughts became active again. After thinking about it, he actually agreed for the first time. Chapter 1737. The Emperor of Heaven immediately agreed to Wu Junshan and Lan Yu. The parents of the two sides reached an agreement and went to work on their own children's thoughts. The Emperor of Heaven had a bad start. It seemed that the Empyrean fairy had seen through some clues, but the Emperor of Heaven insisted and did not reveal any specific details. The Emperor of Heaven looked at his daughter with concern and said sincerely, "Yaoer, I know you're worried. After all, that brat Tang Zheng is a playboy. He really isn't good enough for you, but I can still accept it. Father promises you that once you two are together, if he dares to flirt with other women again, I'll break his legs." "Father, who said I agreed to it?"
The Empyrean fairy rolled her eyes helplessly. The Emperor of Heaven was unmoved and said to himself, "Don't worry, those beautiful women by his side won't be able to touch him. Father will definitely take care of this for you and not give others a chance to take advantage of you. You two can live your own lives and kiss each other. Haha, I'll hold my grandson soon." The Empyrean fairy could no longer maintain her composure. She angrily stomped her feet and said, "Father, how can you say this? Get out, get out. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I want to rest." Without any explanation, she pushed the Emperor of Heaven out of the room. After the door closed with a bang, the Emperor of Heaven could only stare at the door in a daze. Sigh. In the end, he sighed heavily and shook his head. He walked out of the villa and happened to see Wu Junshan and Lan Yu walk out of Tang Zheng's room. The two of them also had a look of disappointment. The two sides looked at each other and seemed to understand each other's thoughts. They met outside the villa with tacit understanding. "How is it?" Lan Yu asked impatiently. The Emperor of Heaven raised his head and said passionately, "Marriage is an important matter. Of course Yaoer will listen to me. There's no problem." Hearing this, Lan Yu and Wu Junshan's expressions became even more dejected and disappointed. "How are you? That kid must be overjoyed, right?" the Emperor of Heaven asked proudly. Lan Yu and Wu Junshan looked at each other, not knowing how to answer this question. Their expressions became complicated. The Emperor of Heaven's pupils shrank. He narrowed his eyes and stared at the two of them, saying, "What? Could it be that the brat has other ideas?" Wu Junshan hurriedly waved his hand and comforted, "Senior, please calm down. Of course, he won't have any objections. It's just that we're talking about free love right now, so we need them to interact in private." The Emperor of Heaven was not so easily fooled. He heard the implied meaning and his face darkened. He said, "What free love? It's a bunch of nonsense. Marriage was naturally decided by the parents. Do you think I don't know that brat Tang Zheng? He's proud and arrogant. Did he refuse?" "This," Wu Junshan stammered, at a loss for words. The Celestial Emperor flew into a rage. "How is my daughter not worthy of him? He actually dared to refuse Yaoer. How many people dream of such a good thing, but he actually refused. Preposterous." The Emperor of Heaven became angrier and angrier as he spoke. He wanted nothing more than to teach Tang Zheng a lesson, but when he thought of Tang Zheng's strength, he had no choice but to stop. After all, Tang Zheng possessed both the heavenly Tao and the Tao of earth. Even he paled in comparison. How could he have the ability to teach Tang Zheng a lesson? Tang Zheng's strength was no longer the same as before. Even if he was the Emperor of Heaven, he could not really do anything to Tang Zheng. With this thought, the Emperor of Heaven's anger burned even more fiercely, but he had nowhere to vent it. He glared fiercely at Wu Junshan and his wife. They felt that they were in the wrong and could not help but lower their heads. However, the two of them were very clear that if they wanted to save Tang Zheng, they had to rely on the Empyrean fairy. Naturally, they did not dare to offend the Emperor of Heaven.
They hurriedly advised, "Senior, please calm down. This brat is too young and does not know anything. Don't worry, we will definitely change his mind."
The Emperor of Heaven took a deep breath. He had no choice but to suppress the anger in his heart. He coldly snorted and said, "There are also his close female friends. After he and my daughter fly away together, there will naturally be no more such nonsense."
This. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu were very clear about the story of Tang Zheng and his close female friends. They had experienced many ups and downs together, and it wasn't easy for them to get to where they were today. How could they be separated so easily?
However, when they saw that the Emperor of Heaven's expression was terrifyingly gloomy, as if a storm was coming, the two of them finally braced themselves and hurriedly nodded in agreement.
"Then I will wait for your news.
If that brat does not understand the situation and refuses such a wonderful thing, don't blame me if he explodes and dies."
The Emperor of Heaven was very clear why Wu Junshan and Lan Yu were so nervous. Tang Zheng's 20th birthday was approaching, and the Empyrean Fairy was their only chance. That was why they were so anxious.
Of course, the Emperor of Heaven did not refuse them.
Instead, he went with the flow because he truly admired Tang Zheng.
Although he claimed to be a senior and did not seem to put Tang Zheng in his eyes, he did not dare slight Tang Zheng in the slightest.
He also did not want to see him explode and die. Whether it was for the heavenly Tao or for other reasons, he hoped that Tang Zheng could continue to live. After all, there were still many things that Tang Zheng needed to do in the future. After watching the Emperor of Heaven leave with large strides, Wu Junshan and Lan Yu looked at each other and felt bitter. They could not help but recall the scene in Tang Zheng's room just now. The two of them were beating around the bush, but Tang Zheng was very smart. He quickly understood the clues and figured out the purpose of their visit.
He did not give the two of them a chance to persuade him.
He took the initiative and made his opinion clear. He would not sacrifice the innocence of other women for his own life, especially the Empyrean Fairy. In addition, he had always remembered the incident in the Gate of Heaven. The Emperor of Heaven wanted to take him as his son-in-law, but the conditions were not easy. He would definitely be exclusive. In other words, once he was together with the Empyrean Fairy, other women would have to stand aside and leave him forever. Would he do that? Of course not. Even if his life was hanging by a thread, he would not abandon his own woman. That was not something a man would do. He disdained to do that. Even though Tang Zheng knew his parents' good intentions, he still did not want to be entangled with them on this issue. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu looked at each other speechlessly. They were very clear about the bitterness in their hearts. After a while, Lan Yu said, "Our son is so stubborn. What should we do? There will always be a way. We definitely cannot let him leave us. Since the Emperor of Heaven has already agreed, then the only problem is little Zheng. We have to find a breakthrough." Wu Junshan said in a deep voice. "What is his breakthrough?" Lan Yu muttered to herself. Suddenly, a light flashed through her mind. At the same time, Wu Junshan's eyes also lit up. The two of them looked at each other and lightly nodded as if they had seen through each other's thoughts. Wu Junshan indicated for Lan Yu to speak first. Lan Yu excitedly said, "His close female friends." Chapter 1738. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu found a breakthrough point and were the first to find Marshall, hoping that she would be the first breakthrough point. However, the news they received from Marshall Mouth shocked them greatly, causing their minds to be greatly shaken. These confidants had already worked together and discussed a countermeasure. They were willing to withdraw, thus helping Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy. You all! As a woman, how could Lan Yu not understand their feelings? She emotionally said, "Your sacrifices are too great." Marshall firmly shook his head. "As long as we can save Tang Zheng, we are willing to give up anything, even our lives." Lan Yu originally had 1,000 words, but they were suddenly stuck in her throat, and she could not say anything. On the contrary, she felt that her decision was cruel to these women, and she could not bear it. Marshall had already seen through the clues from Master's wife's reaction and said, "Master's wife, this is our joint decision. Don't think too much about it. All of you have sacrificed so much for little Zheng. As a mother, I thank all of you." Lan Yu suddenly took a step back and bowed deeply towards Marshall. Marshall was shocked and immediately retreated to the side, not daring to accept such a big bow.
he said. Master's wife, you are too serious.
We all like Tang Zheng, so naturally we will not watch him explode and die. Normally, he is the one who protects us, but now it is our turn to protect him. Little Zheng, how can you have confidants like you?
Lan Yu sighed with emotion.
Master's wife, Shirshir has already gone to find the Empyrean fairy, but was rejected by her. So, we are still thinking of a way to match the two of them. Marshall said in distress. What? You said the Empyrean fairy rejected?
Wu Junshan was shocked and could not help but exclaim.
Yes, it's about tonight. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu looked at each other.
Didn't the Emperor of Heaven say that the Empyrean fairy had agreed?
Why did he go back on his word? No. The two of them immediately realized that things were not as simple as they thought. The Celestial the Arch was definitely hiding something. Perhaps the Empyrean maiden didn't agree, but he purposely said that she did. If that was the case, things would be even more difficult. After all, if both parties did not agree, then this matter could not continue. Deep worry appeared in their eyes, and they were at a loss for what to do. Master, mistress, what's wrong?
Marshall looked at the two of them in surprise.
Let me tell you a piece of bad news. We have already gone to find little Zhang in advance, and he does not agree to this matter. He does not wish to sacrifice others to fulfill himself. How is this sacrificing others? The Nine Heavens Profound Maiden has known him for a long time. We are both women, so how can we not see that the Nine Heavens Profound Maiden is interested in him? Marshall Hart said straightforwardly. It was precisely because of this point that several of his close female friends had reached a consensus. Because this matter had a foundation, it would be easier to handle. Otherwise, how could the other party agree to such a ridiculous thing when they casually pulled out a woman? Lan Yu also knew this, and hurriedly comforted him. Marshall, don't be impatient, this matter still has room to turn around. Although the parties involved are not cooperating, we can still operate from within.
Wu nodded thoughtfully. I will listen to master and mistress.
Then what should we do now? Tomorrow we'll wait and see. Then, we'll think of a countermeasure. Lan Yu thought about it and decided to wait until tomorrow to see the reaction of the two of them before making a decision. The next day, everyone woke up early. Empyrean Fairy looked deeply at Tang Zheng, and couldn't help but feel a little strange in her heart.
After all, the words of Feng Shirshir and the Emperor of Heaven had caused waves to surge in her heart.
When she saw Tang Zheng, she couldn't help but think of many things. The other women had long since understood that everyone wanted to matchmake the two of them. Although they were reluctant in their hearts, they did not show it on their faces. Instead, they were racking their brains to find an opportunity. Tang Zheng only knew what his parents were thinking, but he did not know that the others had already had this thought. He only felt that his parents were too concerned and did not carefully consider the suggestion. Moreover, he did not have the mood to think about this problem right now. Even if he only had a short lifespan, he had to take advantage of this opportunity to solve the remaining problems. What if he really couldn't keep his life? Naturally, he would do everything possible to remove all obstacles. Right now, the biggest obstacle was the Dragon Slayer and the sky beyond heaven. As for the heavenly Tao, he could not figure it out for the time being, so he might as well ignore it. First, he had to get rid of the two enemies, the Dragon Slayer and Hao Tian Wang. At the very least, he would be able to let many people have no worries. Therefore, he was racing against time. How could he have the time to consider the issue of love? Although there was no movement in Langia, he believed that there would be movement sooner or later. Back then, he and the Dragon King had already set up an inescapable net in Langia. As long as the Dragon Slayer entered Langia, he would definitely fall into their inescapable net. However, he and the Dragon King did not have absolute confidence in whether this inescapable net could completely trap the Dragon Slayer. After all, the Dragon Slayer would definitely not be an ordinary person who would visit Langia this time. If the leader of the Dragon Slayer entered Langia, the other party was also from the Dragon Clan, then it was really unknown whether the inescapable net could really trap the other party. Therefore, he had to go to the Dragon territory first and meet with the Dragon King to discuss whether they could consolidate the inescapable net in Langia. He was already at the 9th stage of the Mahayana realm. Even if he really encountered the Dragon Slayer, he might not necessarily lose. While consolidating the inescapable net in Langia, it would naturally be better if he could take the initiative to attack. The others looked at Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy thoughtfully.
Before they had time to think of what to say, Tang Zhang had already taken the lead and said, "I have to leave for a while."
What?
This sentence was immediately like a stone thrown into the lake, stirring up circles of ripples.
Everyone looked at Tang Zhang in disbelief.
The pure yang energy was about to explode. Why was he still running around? Why didn't he think of solving the problem of the pure yang energy first?
Where are you going? Feng Shishir asked impatiently.
Tang Zhang smiled and said, "I have to go to the dragon territory to deal with the dragon slayer."
Dragon Slayer. Everyone was shocked. Everyone knew how powerful the Dragon Slayer was.
Now that his life was at stake, he actually ran to deal with the dragon slayer.
No.
Feng Shishir raised an objection for the first time.
No.
Tang Zhang looked at Feng Shishir in surprise. In the past, she almost always stood behind him and supported him. Why did she object this time?
Yes, no.
Feng Shishir nodded. The others nodded one after another.
Yes, no.
You can't go to the dragon territory. Tang Zhang looked around. Everyone had the same opinion. They seemed to have discussed it beforehand. Tang Zhang was shocked. The sun rose from the west. Everyone was against him. He looked at everyone, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, and asked, "Is there a problem?"
Of course there is a problem.
Feng Shishir walked in front of him step by step. Her eyes were firm and her expression was serious. Chapter 1739. Not only did Feng Shishir have a serious expression, but the other women also had serious expressions as they stared at Tang Zhang, standing on the same side as Feng Shishir. Tang Zhang looked around and saw their strange reactions. He asked in surprise, "What's wrong?" "You can't go to the dragon domain." The women all agreed and said without any hesitation.
"Why can't I go?"
Tang Zhang asked back. "Your pure yang energy will completely erupt on your 20th birthday. If you stay in the dragon domain for too long, what will you do if your life is in danger? Your most important task right now is to dissolve your pure yang energy," Yi Dingdang said in a powerful voice. Tang Zhang gave an unconcerned smile and said, "It's not as serious as you say. Haven't I already controlled my pure yang energy? There won't be a problem." He was completely spouting nonsense. Now that his cultivation had increased rapidly, his pure yang energy was not as restless as before. This kind of abnormal situation made him very vigilant. This was the calm before the storm, indicating that once his pure yang energy erupted, it would be even more dangerous than before.
Control?
That's only temporary. Your pure yang energy will completely erupt. What will you do then? I'll deal with whatever comes my way. What are you worried about? No, I can't let you go to the dragon domain no matter what. If you want to leave, then you'll have to step over my body. Yi Dingdong's face was red as she directly wanted to lie down on the ground. Tang Zheng's eyes were sharp as he quickly pulled her back. He let out a long sigh and said, "Why are you doing this?" Yi Dingdong's expression was firm as she said, "If you don't cherish your life, then why should I?" Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Normally, Yi Dingdang wouldn't be so unreasonable. It seemed like the others were even more determined today, not giving him any face at all. The Empyrean fairy looked at this scene and couldn't help but feel a trace of emotion. These women's feelings for Tang Zheng were unquestionable, but they were still willing to leave him in order to save him. This kind of perseverance and affection was extremely heavy, causing her to be moved. Her original resentment and emotions disappeared like smoke in thin air. It was precisely because Tang Zheng understood their feelings that he couldn't refuse their good intentions. Both sides were in a deadlock. "You can go to the dragon domain." Suddenly, Wu Junshan and Yan Qingyi walked in and Lan Yu said something shocking.
"What?"
Everyone wondered if they had misheard and looked at Lan Yu, who was walking over in disbelief. Marshall couldn't help but say, "Mistress, are you mistaken?" Lan Yu smiled faintly and said meaningfully, "How could I be wrong? Little, you want to go to the dragon domain?" Tang Zheng nodded his head. "You have your own opinions. This is a well-known fact. We are your strong backing. How could we drag you down?" Lan Yu said with a smile. Tang Dehai also walked in and said, "You're right. We're your family. We won't drag you down. We'll only be your backing so that you won't have to worry about anything." "Grandfather, why are you here?" Tang Zheng hurriedly went up to greet him,
His attitude towards Tang Dahai was even more cordial. Lan Yu's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness, but she immediately put away her complicated feelings. After all, she was the one who personally invited Tang Dahai. Last night, the couple had no choice but to ask Tang Dahai for help. After all, Tang Dahai understood Tang Zhang the best, and the relationship between grandfather and grandson was the closest. Tang Dahai indeed understood Tang Zhang very well. After giving the two of them some pointers, it was as if they had seen the blue sky after dispersing the clouds and mist. Tang Zhang's character was amenable to coaxing but not coercion, and could only go along with his temperament. If he had already made his decision, even 8 horses wouldn't be able to pull him back. Then he might as well go with the flow. This way, he would be able to obtain an unexpected effect. Thus, when they heard that Tang Zhang was going to the dragon domain, Wu Junshan and Lan Yu had a tacit understanding and decided to go with the flow and agree with his decision. Tang Dahai's spirit was hale and hearty as he said, "This trip to the dragon domain will definitely be dangerous. After all, you are not facing one enemy, but many dragon slayers. So, you can't return alone. With so many people, you have to choose a helper. The dragon domain is also a place of trouble. There are dragons there. If they are not of the same mind as you, it will be troublesome at the critical moment." Lan Yu's mouth curled up in joy. The old man had the same thoughts as them. Thus, she hurriedly agreed. The old man's words are reasonable. "Little Zhang, you have to choose someone to fight with you side by side." Tang Zhang muttered to himself. It seemed that these words were not without reason, and he could not find a reason to refute them. "Of course my daughter is the most suitable candidate." Suddenly, the Emperor of Heaven walked over and said with a loud voice. The others were startled, especially the Empyrean fairy. She looked at her father in astonishment and asked, "Father, this is his business. How does it have anything to do with me?" The Emperor of Heaven waved his hand and said proudly, "Now that we are all in the same camp, how can we be divided? We should help each other, only then can we fight against a strong enemy. Now, among so many people, other than you, who is the most suitable to go together?" If it was before, the fearless Yi Dingdang would definitely object, but at this moment, she was actually silent for the first time. Her eyes flashed with a pondering expression, and then she came to a sudden realization. His other close female friends also heard the implied meaning. These elders echoed each other, and it was clear that everything was clear. They were deliberately matchmaking the Empyrean fairy and Tang Zhang together. The trip to the dragon domain was definitely dangerous. What if the two of them were to see their true feelings in adversity? This was more effective than forcefully matchmaking. After all, these two were not ordinary people, and forcefully matchmaking might not work. Yes, we also agree. The Empyrean fairy and Tang Zhang will go together to the dragon domain. They can look after each other, and even if there is danger, they can deal with it. Feng Shishir was the first to speak, and stood on the same side as the elders. As soon as this was said, the others also echoed and expressed their agreement. Tang Zhang and Empyrean fairy looked at each other, and couldn't help but be a bit stunned. It seemed that the others had already finished speaking, and didn't give them a chance to think or object. The two of them weren't idiots. How could they not see that everyone was trying to matchmake them together? Thinking back to last night's matter, the two of them instantly understood. This was taking a step back and using a roundabout way to save the country. This circle was really big. Tang Zhang was about to refute, but Lan Yu was sensitive and immediately guessed his thoughts. She didn't give him a chance to speak and impatiently said, "This matter is decided. The two of them will go together." Emperor of Heaven hurriedly echoed and said, "That's reasonable. This trip to the dragon domain is dangerous and unpredictable. You must help each other. No matter who is in danger, the other should do everything they can. Even if there is a bit of sacrifice, you must consider the overall situation and save the other party. Do you understand?" After Emperor of Heaven finished speaking, he gave the Empyrean fairy a meaningful look. The Empyrean fairy didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could she not understand the meaning behind these words? This was telling her to risk her life to save Tang Zhang when his pure yang energy erupted. She couldn't help but wonder if the Emperor of Heaven was her biological father. Instead, she was closer to Tang Zheng. "Yesterday was my birthday, and there were guests at home. There were many things to do, so I didn't update." Chapter 1740. The Emperor of Heaven didn't give the two of them a chance to retort. He made the final decision and repeatedly shot glances at the Empyrean fairy. The Empyrean fairy sighed inwardly. She was well aware of her father's temperament, so how could she not know what he was thinking? He was determined to bring the two of them together. Tang Zhang and the Empyrean fairy glanced at each other. Their eyes were filled with a deep sense of helplessness. If they continued to argue, they probably wouldn't be able to explain themselves even after 3 days and 3 nights. Time was of the essence, so they couldn't afford to waste any more time. Forget it. This isn't the first time Fu Yao and I have been on a mission together, so there's no need to be so obsessed. I'll just treat things as normal and not think about those messy things. Tang Zheng silently consoled himself. The Empyrean fairy took a deep look at Tang Zheng. Seeing that he didn't object, she also chose to remain silent. The others were overjoyed. The Emperor of Heaven clapped his hands and said in a clear voice, "Tang Zheng and Yao are going to the Dragon Realm together. We'll be waiting for your triumphant return." The others cleverly chose not to be light bulbs. Even though his confidants were reluctant to part with him, they didn't say a single word of no. High in the sky, the spatial gate opened once again. Tang Zheng and the Empyrean fairy stood outside the spatial gate and looked down. They couldn't help but recall the reluctant expressions of the others. The danger of this trip was unpredictable. It was probably the most dangerous of all the missions. Everyone was incomparably worried, but they didn't show it on their faces. "Do you think they're looking at us?" The Empyrean fairy broke the silence and asked. Tang Zheng nodded slightly. "They're definitely looking at us. They've really put a lot of thought into this." The Empyrean fairy sighed with emotion. Tang Zheng chuckled awkwardly. He looked toward the spatial gate and said, "Let's go. I'll show you the splendor of the Dragon Realm." The Empyrean fairy also began to look forward to the battle. The mysteries of the Dragon Clan were self-evident to many people. Even the Empyrean fairy, who had an extraordinary background, didn't know much about the Dragon Clan. She was filled with endless curiosity toward the Dragon Clan. Now that she had the opportunity to explore the base camp of the dragon race, this was a very attractive opportunity for the prideful fairy of the 9 heavens. "Long Yu, I'm coming," she murmured in her heart as she followed Tang Zheng into the spatial door. Her surroundings immediately fell into boundless darkness. Not long after, a door opened in front of them. The two of them stepped through the door and arrived at another world, the Dragon Realm. The Empyrean fairy tossed all the miscellaneous thoughts to the back of her mind. She opened her eyes wide and stared at the completely different world. Lowering his head, all he could see was a boundless blue sea that extended to the ends of the world. There was no land in sight at all. "So this is the Dragon Realm?" the Empyrean fairy exclaimed in amazement. Tang Zheng nodded with a smile. "The Dragon Realm is a world of water. The Dragon Clan lives underwater. Let's go, I'll take you to the Dragon Realm." Whoosh whoosh. The two of them dove toward the surface of the water like swords. Boom. When the two of them landed on the surface of the water, a huge wave soared into the sky. A 6-clawed golden dragon soared into the sky, and even the seawater was suffused with a golden luster. Roar! An earth-shattering dragon's roar resounded through heaven and earth. Then, 2 huge dragon eyes stared straight at the two of them. When its gaze fixed on Tang Zheng, the 6-clawed golden dragon's body trembled and cried out in surprise, "Dragon God Envoy!" As soon as his voice fell, the 6-clawed golden dragon's huge body lowered its head and bowed respectfully in front of Tang Zheng. "Dragon God Envoy?" The Empyrean fairy looked at Tang Zheng in surprise. Regarding everything that happened in the Dragon Realm, Tang Zheng had only briefly introduced it. The Empyrean fairy did not know the specific details. Therefore, the respectful attitude of the 6-clawed golden dragon and the title of Dragon God Envoy shocked the Empyrean fairy and made it difficult for her to maintain her composure. Tang Zheng did not recognize the 6-clawed golden dragon, but that was not important. He nodded slightly and said, "Bring us to the Dragon Palace." Yes. The 6-clawed golden dragon quickly led the way. A golden light shot into the sea, and the seawater parted on its own. It was as if a deep canyon had opened up, leading straight to the depths of the sea. The Empyrean fairy stared without blinking. She did not miss a single detail, as if every detail was a treasure to her. The two of them flew into the sea, and the water on both sides quickly filled up the canyon. The six-clawed golden dragon led the way. Wherever it passed, the sea water parted automatically, opening up a passage. The six-clawed golden dragon glanced at the Empyrean fairy from time to time. It seemed to be puzzled. Judging from her aura, she was not from the dragon clan at all. It was a big deal that an outsider had arrived in the dragon realm. However, what if she was like Tang Zheng and had a divine skill? Judging from her aura, she was not from the dragon clan, but in fact, she was inextricably linked to the dragon clan. It was just that she hid it very well. After walking for a long time, a dazzling golden light shot from below. It was very dazzling, and it immediately attracted the Empyrean fairy's attention. The Dragon Palace. Her heart skipped a beat, and she hurriedly looked over. Sure enough, a magnificent palace came into view. The magnificent scene was moving. Tang Zhang turned to look at her and introduced, "The Dragon Clan lives underwater. The underwater world has not only the Dragon Palace, but also many other places where the Dragon Clan lives." The Empyrean fairy nodded and exclaimed, "The Dragon Clan is really a magical clan." Hearing this, the six-clawed golden dragon raised its head high, revealing its pride and satisfaction. They landed on the square in front of the Dragon Palace. As soon as they arrived at the Dragon Palace, the news was sent back. A figure quickly jumped out of the Dragon Palace. Whoosh! This figure went straight for Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng stopped in his tracks, and a faint smile appeared on his face as he watched the other party come to a sudden stop in front of him. "Master!" The other party was overjoyed. It turned out to be the golden dragon that had followed Tang Zheng for countless years. He had already transformed into his human form and couldn't wait to jump into Tang Zheng's arms. "Master, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for a long time." The golden dragon couldn't contain his joy. He was so excited that he was speechless. Tang Zheng smiled and stared at the golden dragon with shining eyes. The golden dragon's aura and momentum were completely different from before, causing Tang Zheng's eyes to light up. With his current eyesight, it wasn't difficult for him to see the changes in the golden dragon. He took the initiative to praise, "Your improvement speed is not bad. It's actually different from before." The golden dragon said excitedly, This is all thanks to Master. If it weren't for your guidance and those days by your side, I'm afraid I wouldn't have my current cultivation and achievements." Back then, after Tang Zheng, the dragon god envoy, left, the status of the golden dragon also rose. Even the Dragon King attached great importance to the golden dragon, and a lot of resources were given to him. The golden dragon also didn't disappoint. His efforts finally paid off, and he had undergone earth-shaking changes. Chapter 1741. The golden dragon's gaze fell on the Empyrean fairy and said in surprise, "You're here too." The Empyrean fairy smiled faintly and said, "Am I not welcome?" The golden dragon laughed out loud. "How could that be? Welcome to the dragon domain. You're the first human to arrive here." "Is he not?" The Empyrean fairy pointed at Tang Zheng and asked. The golden dragon said mysteriously, "Master is also considered a dragon." "Oh." The Empyrean fairy dragged out the last word as she remembered that he had the body of a real dragon. It seemed that the dragons considered him as one of them. "Master, the Dragon King is already waiting for you in the Dragon Palace. Let's go in and talk." Tang Zheng slightly nodded his head, and the golden dragon immediately led the way, entering the Dragon Palace with the two of them. The Nine Heavens' mysterious maiden looked around in astonishment, constantly sizing up her surroundings, not letting go of any details. This was the real Dragon Palace. It was much more magnificent than the so-called dragon palaces in the human world. When humans walked in it, they felt small and insignificant. When the dragon guards along the way saw Tang Zheng, they all stopped and saluted, respectfully calling him the dragon god envoy. The Empyrean fairy glanced at him and said meaningfully, "You have quite a high prestige in the dragon race." Tang Zheng smiled faintly and said, "Just a little bit of face." "This is not just a little bit of face." The golden dragon heard this and quickly said, "Master is the dragon god envoy of the dragon race. That is an existence that is not inferior to the Dragon King. You have a higher status than the other dragon envoys, so naturally your prestige is higher." "So powerful. Not inferior to the Dragon King." The Empyrean fairy's eyes flashed with suspicion, as if she did not believe it. The golden dragon saw this and wanted to argue for Tang Zheng, but was stopped by Tang Zheng's eyes. The golden dragon resentfully closed his mouth and said, "Master, after you left, many people still talked about you and were grateful for your kindness. Everyone is too polite. I'm not being polite, I'm being sincere. You've taught everyone the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, helping all of the Dragon Clan increase their strength. The overall strength of the Dragon Clan has made a qualitative leap." The golden dragon said with admiration. Back then, when Tang Zheng taught everyone the advanced version of the Dragon God mantra, the effects were not immediately apparent. After all, it took time to cultivate. After so many days, after the Dragon Clan cultivated the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, their strength increased rapidly. Only then did they feel deeply grateful to Tang Zheng for his kindness. Naturally, their respect for Tang Zheng rose from the bottom of their hearts. The Empyrean fairy stared deeply at Tang Zheng. Her heart was also in turmoil. Even though she was the daughter of the Emperor of Heaven and was undoubtedly a heaven's favorite, she was still in awe of the dragon race. The Dragon Clan was a great and mysterious race. Even the entire Dragon Clan was in awe of Tang Zheng. Naturally, Tang Zheng's image in her heart rose by a lot. This was not something that anyone could do. Even her father, the Emperor of Heaven, could not do it. However, Tang Zheng did it. The three of them arrived in front of the Dragon Palace. From afar, they could see the Dragon King and the 7 dragon envoys standing at the entrance of the Dragon Palace. They were surrounded by a dense mass of dragon guards. The Empyrean fairy's eyelids twitched a few times. Even though her cultivation was high and her will was firm, she could not help but be shaken by this scene. Experts, they're all experts. She could not remember how many years it had been since she saw so many experts standing in front of her. That aura and majesty really made her heart beat faster. On the other hand, Tang Zheng was very calm. He walked in front of the Dragon King at a neither fast nor slow pace. The Empyrean fairy also locked onto the Dragon King. After all, the Dragon King's aura was too unique. It was different from the other Dragon Clan members. How could she not recognize him? Dragon King. Dragon God Envoy. The two men's hands were tightly clasped together. The Dragon King's grip was stronger because the Dragon King was too excited. He knew that the advanced version of the Dragon God technique was extraordinary. However, only now did he truly experience its godly might. He also understood its great value. Naturally, he looked at Tang Zheng in a new light and paid more attention to him. He could not help but rejoice that he and Tang Zheng had turned hostility into friendship and did not become enemies. Otherwise, he would have suffered a great loss. He was afraid that he would become the sinner of the Dragon Clan. Tang Zheng was meticulous. He could also see some clues from the Dragon King's reaction. His heart was filled with confidence. Dragon God Envoy, you're finally back. This is really good news for our Dragon Clan. This time, don't be in a hurry to leave. The Dragon King said passionately. Tang Zheng smiled faintly and said, "This time, I won't be in a hurry to leave. I'm here to discuss with the Dragon King how to solve the ultimate problem that is troubling our Dragon Clan." The Dragon King's heart trembled. He knew what Tang Zheng was referring to. His expression became serious as he nodded heavily at Tang Zheng. Suddenly, the Dragon King's gaze turned and landed on the Empyrean fairy. He was not like the other Dragon Clan members who could not confirm the Empyrean fairy's identity. He was 100% sure that the Empyrean fairy was a human. A human actually came to the Dragon Domain and entered the Dragon Palace. His heart trembled. If not for the fact that she was with Tang Zheng, the Dragon King would have taken her down without even asking her. The Dragon King deliberately suppressed the curiosity in his heart and asked, This is my friend, the Empyrean fairy." Tang Zheng hurriedly introduced. "Empyrean fairy." The Dragon King softly repeated and said meaningfully, "What an interesting name." The meaning of this name was too great. If she was in the human world, with her identity as the daughter of the Emperor of Heaven, no one would dare to criticize her. But in front of the Dragon King, this name seemed to be a little empty. The Empyrean fairy stared at the Dragon King with sparkling eyes. Although the Dragon King's dragon aura was extraordinary, she still resisted and did not lose her momentum. The Dragon King slightly narrowed his eyes. He saw something extraordinary about the Empyrean fairy and praised, "The friend of the dragon god is indeed extraordinary."
What an extraordinary woman.
The crowd came to the Dragon Palace. The Dragon King held Tang Zheng's hand and pulled him to the two highest seats. Dragon God, this is your seat. The Dragon King pressed Tang Zheng to his seat, while he sat beside him.
Both sides were on equal footing, unlike the other dragon envoys, whose seats were one level lower than the Dragon King, and whose aura was clearly lower by a level.
The other dragon envoys did not have any objections. They were sincerely convinced by Tang Zheng. The dragon race worshipped the strong. Tang Zheng had already proven his strength and value, so naturally he won their respect. The Empyrean fairy could not sit on the highest seat and could only sit below the other dragon envoys with the golden dragon. The Empyrean fairy did not mind, but her eyes kept looking at everything, unwilling to miss any details. The Dragon King said, Dragon God, did you notice the changes in the dragon race this time? Tang Zheng thought for a moment and said, Are you referring to the cultivation and strength of the dragon race?
Yes.
The Dragon God's eyes are indeed sharp. The Dragon King praised from the bottom of his heart. Just now, the other dragon race that they met had a qualitative leap in strength compared to before. How could Tang Zheng ignore it? Naturally, he answered immediately. The Dragon King said emotionally, This is all thanks to the Dragon God. Even if the Dragon Slayers attack, I have more confidence. Tang Zheng looked at the Dragon King with shining eyes and said, Dragon King, we cannot sit and wait for death. This time, I am here to discuss taking the initiative to attack. Taking the initiative to attack. Chapter 1742. Taking the initiative to attack shocked the Dragon King and the other dragon envoys. Even though the Dragon Clan's strength had improved tremendously, they had never thought of taking the initiative to attack the Dragon Slayers. After all, the image of the Dragon Slayers as invincible had been deeply ingrained in the Dragon Clan. Tang Zheng looked around and asked with a frown, Do you have any opinions? The Dragon King remained silent.
One of the dragon envoys said, Dragon God Envoy, the Dragon Slayer's strength is obvious to all.
Taking the initiative to attack may not have a good effect. Moreover, the Dragon Clan's strength is getting stronger and stronger. We can take it slow and wait until we have enough strength before taking the initiative to attack. Wouldn't that be better? The other Dragon Clan members nodded in agreement.
The Dragon King was not in a hurry to speak.
He looked at Tang Zheng meaningfully, as if he wanted to see his reaction. He would definitely have something to say.
As expected, Tang Zheng said loudly, Take it slow?
Haha. Do you think the Dragon Slayers will give us the chance in time?
Everyone's expression turned cold as they looked at Tang Zheng in unison. They only heard him say firmly, The Dragon Slayer will definitely find a way to enter Langya.
Once the Dragon Slayer reaches Langya, what kind of serious consequences do you think there will be?
This.
The dragon envoys looked at each other and turned to the Dragon King. The Dragon King's eyelids twitched.
Of course. He knew the seriousness of this matter.
However, didn't he and Tang Zheng set a trap in Langya? Tang Zheng guessed the Dragon King's thoughts and said, Can the Langya trap completely trap the Dragon Slayers?
This.
The Dragon King hesitated. He could not be sure about this. Tang Zheng smiled and said, To avoid being passive in the future, we choose to take the initiative to attack. This is the most effective method. Where are the Dragon Slayers? Even if we want to take the initiative to attack, we can't find their nest.
A dragon envoy retorted.
The whereabouts of the Dragon Slayers are mysterious. We couldn't find them in the past, but I'm afraid that's not the case now. We already have the ability to sense the Dragon Slayers. The Dragon Slayers can lock onto us in the boundless world. We can also do the opposite and lock onto the Dragon Slayers in the boundless world.
Tang Zheng said mysteriously.
Is that really possible? All the dragon ambassadors were skeptical. Of course.
Tang Zheng was very confident.
Why can't we sense the nest of the Dragon Slayers? That's because a single power is too weak. When everyone's power is gathered, this power will be twisted into a rope, and it will become even more powerful. Tang Zheng said solemnly. Is that true? Tang Zheng nodded heavily.
This was not a decision he had made on a whim, but a decision he had made after careful consideration.
Back then, the dragon ancestor had taught him the ability to sense the Dragon Slayer, which could only be used in the same world. Now that Tang Zheng's cultivation had reached the 9th grade of the Mahayana realm,
Many of his abilities had undergone qualitative changes, and this method of sensing was one of them. I didn't do it on a whim. Before I came to the dragon field, I had already experimented. Somehow, I've already caught some clues. I believe that with everyone's power, there will definitely be new discoveries. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to make such a solemn vow. The Dragon King and the Dragon Ambassador's expressions changed as they looked at each other. The Dragon King asked doubtfully, "Why can't I sense anything?" Tang Zhang said doubtfully, "Dragon King, you're the king of a clan. Your understanding of the Dragon Clan's abilities should be above mine. Even I found some clues. How can you be sure that you didn't find anything?" The Dragon King's expression was resentful, not knowing how to answer. Tang Zhang lowered his head and thought. Suddenly, his heart lit up. He had finally guessed something. Could it be related to the Dragon God fragment? He had fused with the Dragon God fragment, but the Dragon King and the other dragons did not have such an opportunity. Perhaps this was the biggest difference between the two. The Dragon God fragment definitely had a better understanding of the Dragon Clan's abilities than the other dragons. It was not difficult to explain why Tang Zhang was slightly better. Tang Zhang did not explain further. He said firmly, "Please believe me this time. I'm definitely not lying. We will definitely sense the Dragon Slayer's lair. Just like how they tracked us, we will do the opposite. We will follow the Dragon Slayers." Many dragons' eyes were filled with excitement. The Dragon Clan had experienced countless years of humiliation. Now, they could finally hold their heads high. This kind of feeling was self-evident. The Dragon Ambassadors all looked at the Dragon King. This kind of important matter would naturally be decided by him. The Dragon King was silent for a while. His eyes changed. All kinds of complicated thoughts were fighting in his mind. Finally, his eyes became firm and he made a decision. He looked around and said loudly, "Tang Zhang is preparing for a rainy day. This is a feasible method. Then, we will gather everyone's strength and work together to sense the Dragon Slayer's lair. We will take the initiative to attack." As soon as this was said, the other dragons were relieved. They were like drifting duckweed that finally had a goal and a route. Hearing this, the Golden Dragon was the first to stand up excitedly. He danced and praised, "The Dragon King is wise. Master is wise." The other dragons waved their flags and shouted, "The Dragon King is wise." Tang Zhang and the Dragon King looked at each other. The Dragon King's majesty was indeed unrivaled. A simple sentence set the tone. It was enough to make Tang Zhang's mouth dry. "There's no time to lose. Let's start now," Tang Zhang said eagerly. So anxious. The other dragons were shocked and did not understand. Tang Zhang was in a race against time. He did not dare to delay. He said firmly, "It's indeed very urgent. It's very urgent. The sooner we eliminate the Dragon Slayers, the sooner we will be out of danger." The dragons did not know that Tang Zhang was trapped by the power of pure yang and did not have long to live. That was why they were racing against time. The Dragon King took a deep look at Tang Zhang. He did not refuse and said directly, "Then let's start now. You tell us what to do. We will do as you say." The Dragon King was polite to the wise, and Tang Zhang did not refuse. After all, no one knew the supernatural power of induction as well as he did. The Empyrean Fairy opened her eyes wide and watched curiously as the situation developed quickly. Tang Zhang was neither servile nor overbearing. Even when facing the Dragon King, he maintained his demeanor. He even dared to argue and wrestle with the Dragon King. This courage and courage were rare. The Empyrean Fairy could not do it by herself. Even the Emperor of Heaven might not be able to do it. The Empyrean Fairy was surprised to see that everyone had reached a consensus. They were going to use magic to sense the Dragon Slayers. She looked at everyone, unwilling to miss any detail. "Tang Zhang, you are really good at creating miracles. You can even do things well in the Dragon Realm. I'll wait and see how you track the Dragon Slayers," the Empyrean Fairy thought silently. Chapter 1743. Tang Zhang stood calmly in front of all the dragon envoys and dragon kings. He activated the Dragon God spell, and a golden light shot out from his body. CHW0. Roar. His entire body was enveloped in golden light. With a shake of his body, he transformed into a true dragon.
His 9 dragon claws bared their fangs and brandished their claws. His dragon aura was so strong that other than the Dragon King, the other dragons did not dare to look directly at him. They had the urge to kowtow, and even the dragon envoys were no exception. The Dragon King widened his eyes and stared at Tang Zheng. Without a doubt, the other party's cultivation had improved a lot compared to before. He also gave the Dragon King a sense of oppression. "What's your cultivation level now?" the Dragon King asked doubtfully.
"9th grade Mahayana."
Tang Zheng opened his dragon mouth and answered. "What? 9th grade Mahayana?" Not only did the Dragon King exclaim, but the other dragon envoys and even the golden dragon screamed in disbelief. "How long has it been? How did your cultivation level improve by leaps and bounds?" the Dragon King asked. Tang Zheng opened his dragon mouth, as if he was smiling, and said, "Perhaps this is fate." When the dragons heard this, they were speechless. "With your strength, we have a higher chance of winning against the dragon slayers," the Dragon King said. Tang Zheng nodded slightly and waved his dragon claws. Golden light shot out in all directions and he shouted, "Let's use our sensing abilities together." The Dragon King and the other dragon envoys were already ready. When they heard this command, they all used their abilities. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Golden light shot out from their bodies. The golden light spread throughout the dragon palace and intertwined into a golden light screen. The light screen flickered as if there were images flashing on it. Ha! Not only the dragons, but even the Empyrean fairy was staring at the light screen with wide eyes. It was very magical. What did this change signify? Tang Zheng, the Dragon King and the other dragon envoys' hearts lit up as they gradually came to a realization. Immediately, a blazing light burst forth from their eyes as they mustered all their strength and used all of their abilities. In an instant, the light screen shone brighter and the flickering images calmed down. "This is..." Everyone was stunned as they stared at the image on the light screen. "This is the dragon domain," one of the dragons cried out in surprise. In the image, there was a boundless sea that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was as if there was really no difference between this place and the dragon region. "Second. No, this is not the dragon realm," the Dragon King retorted, his eyes solemn and gloomy. "If it's not the dragon region, then where is it? Isn't this clearly the dragon domain?" someone asked in confusion. The Dragon King pointed at a blurry image in the distance and said, "Look, what's that?" Everyone widened their eyes and stared at the blurry scene in the distance. "It seems to be an undulating mountain range." The Dragon King praised, "Yes, that's the mountain range. But there are no mountain ranges in the dragon region. Is this not the dragon region?" Some of the dragons were confused. "Wrong." The Dragon King said loudly, "This is the dragon domain, but it is also not the dragon domain." These words caused the other dragons to be confused. Their eyes were filled with question marks. The Dragon King seemed to have expected this scene and said, "This is the earliest home of the dragon clan, so naturally it is the dragon domain. But now it is an abandoned place, a place that the dragon clan can never return to, so it is not the dragon domain anymore. This is the new dragon domain." As soon as he said this, everyone suddenly realized that this was the scene of the ancient dragon domain. No wonder it was so different from the current dragon domain. Tang Zheng was also shocked. He looked at the scene with a burning gaze and said, "Could it be that the dragon slayer took over the magpie's nest and occupied the ancient dragon domain?" The Dragon King clenched his teeth, as if he was extremely unwilling to admit this result. But in the end, he still nodded his head bitterly. "It is possible." Tang Zheng made the final decision and corrected him. "It's not possible, it's definitely the case. This is the result of our tracking. It's definitely not wrong." The Dragon King felt bitter in his heart and had no words to refute because he knew very well that Tang Zheng's words made sense. The leader of the Dragon Slayer was a traitor of the Dragon Clan, and the Dragon Domain was the most suitable place for the Dragon Clan to live. It was reasonable for this traitor to take over the magpie's nest. It was just that this ancient Dragon Domain was too big and too obvious a target. Ever since the Dragon Clan left, they never returned to their ancient home. All the Dragon Clan understood the ins and outs of the matter. For a moment, all sorts of feelings welled up in their hearts. The Dragon Slayer's headquarters had been tracked out. The Dragon Clan's hearts trembled and they stopped their supernatural powers. The light screen trembled and finally turned into specks of light that scattered with the wind. Everyone fell into silence. They looked at each other in silence. It seemed that no one had expected the final result to be like this. The Empyrean fairy looked around and saw that the dragon clan seemed to want to continue to remain silent. She broke the silence and said, "What are you all standing there for? Since we have found the enemy's whereabouts, we should immediately attack and give the dragon slayer a fatal blow." The dragon clan raised their heads and looked at her with mixed feelings. The dragon clan was not really afraid of the dragon slayer, but their minds were disturbed by this result. The dragon slayer occupied the dragon clan's ancient home. This was a blatant provocation. They did not put the dragon clan in their eyes at all. Although they were angry, the reality was so cruel. In the past, they really had no way to take back everything. The dragon slayer was too powerful and almost impossible to defeat. Cough cough. Tang Zheng coughed dryly and also broke the awkwardness. He said loudly, "I understand everyone's feelings very well. The dragon slayer occupied our ancient home. This should stimulate our fighting spirit. Not only do we have to defeat the dragon slayer, we also have to take back the ancient home that belongs to the dragon clan. The humiliation of the dragon clan that has lasted for countless years will end in this generation. Victory and the future will definitely belong to us." Tang Zheng's words were sonorous and powerful, stimulating the dragon clan's hearts. The dragon clan's silent eyes were ignited with fighting spirit. They looked at each other and raised their heads in tacit understanding. It seemed that they had regained the pride of the dragon clan. The golden dragon's eyes were as bright as the stars. He raised his arms and shouted, "Take back our home and defeat the dragon slayer." As soon as this was said, the crowd was furious. The dragon clan raised their clenched fists and shouted, "Take back our home and defeat the dragon slayer." This scene deeply stimulated the nerves of every dragon clan. Even the Dragon King was no exception. His eyes became bright red, and his lips trembled. He also raised his fists and shouted, "Take back our home and defeat the dragon slayer." The heavy mountain that had been pressing on the Dragon King's heart in the past seemed to have disappeared at this moment. As he raised his arms and shouted, the mountain collapsed. The shouts in the Dragon Hall resounded through the sky. The other people who did not know the reason stopped and looked at the Dragon Hall with burning eyes. Although they did not understand the reason, they were affected by this emotion. Their emotions fluctuated, and they also shouted, "Take back our home and defeat the dragon slayer." Chapter 1744. The Dragon Clan was excited. The Empyrean fairy looked at this scene and took a deep look at Tang Zheng, who was the cause of all this. He seemed to have a great charm. No matter where he was, he could set off stormy waves and stir up the wind and clouds. As for the old dragon domain, it was really worth investigating. The Empyrean fairy's blood seemed to be boiling, and her eyes shone with brilliance. Tang Zheng and the other Dragon Clan members raised their arms and shouted together. Their shouts echoed in the sky above the Dragon Palace for a long time. After a long time, everything calmed down. Tang Zheng and the Dragon King looked at each other. Tang Zheng said, "Dragon King, you should know where the ancient dragon domain is. We will set off after we are fully prepared." The Dragon King nodded heavily. He had no objections. The dragon slayers still occupied the Dragon Clan's ancient home. This point poked at the Dragon King's sore spot. A great sense of shame shrouded his heart. If he did not wash away the shame, not only would he be letting down the Dragon Clan's ancestors, but he would also be letting down the Dragon God. At the thought of the Dragon God, the Dragon King could not help but become excited. Tang Zheng had fused with the Dragon God fragment and had a natural sense of oppression towards the Dragon Clan. The remaining Dragon God fragments were hidden in the higher floors of Langia. As long as someone stepped up first, they would definitely be able to fuse with the Dragon God fragment. It was clear how big of a gain this was. Ever since Tang Zheng left the Dragon Domain, the Dragon King thought about it and finally told the entire Dragon Clan that the Dragon God fragment was in Langia. Of course, this also allowed the Dragon Clan's history to be completely revealed to the Dragon Clan for the first time. However, it was not as bad as the Dragon King had expected. On the contrary, everyone's attention was attracted by the Dragon God fragment. This greatly stimulated the Dragon Clan's passion for cultivation. Almost every Dragon Clan member put in all their effort to cultivate the advanced version of the Dragon God technique. Once they cultivated to the corresponding level, they would be able to go to the remaining floors. Not only would they be able to obtain the sacred weapons, but they would also be able to obtain the Dragon God fragment. This was too exciting. No Dragon Clan member could resist it. Even the Dragon King was no exception. The Dragon King already had the Dragon Shadow Blade. The 3 sacred patterns showed the grade and power of the Dragon Shadow Blade. The Dragon King no longer had a strong impulse towards magic treasures. What he wanted the most now was the Dragon God fragment. Once he fused with the Dragon God fragment, there would be a qualitative change, and he might even become a new Dragon God. Just thinking about it made him so excited that he couldn't control himself. The Dragon Envoys retreated to prepare and mobilize the army, while the Dragon King went straight to the final seclusion. They agreed to set off in 3 days to march into the ancient homeland of the dragon race. Even though 3 days seemed like a long time, it was actually not long at all. The few Dragon Envoys had to work hard in order to reorganize their army and prepare to depart in 3 days. This was not a single person, but an entire army. Even Tang Zhang had never experienced something like this before, so he could only let the Dragon Envoy make the preparations. I can't afford to waste these 3 days. Now that I'm at the 9th stage of the Grand Ascension stage, I should be able to upgrade my Dragon God arts again. It's a pity that I've been too busy recently and haven't had the energy to cultivate the advanced version of the Dragon God technique. These 3 days are a godsend opportunity. Sharpening one's spear before the battle, even if it wasn't fast, it would still be bright. Tang Zheng decided to cultivate before the big battle. He glanced in the direction where the Dragon King disappeared and guessed that the Dragon King seemed to have the same idea. The Dragon King was definitely determined to get the Dragon God fragment, and he could not fall behind. If he could fuse with the Dragon God fragment, he would have a huge leap. Was the 9th stage of the Grand Ascension stage the end of cultivation? No. He got the answer from Hao Tianwang. The 9th stage of the Grand Ascension stage was not the end. Perhaps it was a starting point. As long as he could cross this hurdle, he might start a new chapter. Now that he had comprehended the heavenly way and the Tao, but he was still at the 9th stage of the Grand Ascension stage. How could he make such a qualitative leap? The Dragon God fragment. He pinned his hopes on the Dragon God fragment. At least for now, his hopes were pinned on the Dragon God fragment. He instructed the Golden Dragon to bring the 9 Heavens Profound Maiden to visit the Dragon region. The Golden Dragon wanted to say something but hesitated. It had something to say to Tang Zheng, but seeing that he was in a hurry to cultivate, it did not say anything. Tang Zheng was so focused on cultivating that he did not notice the Golden Dragon's abnormality. In a secret place in the Dragon Palace, Tang Zheng abandoned all distracting thoughts and immersed his mind into the Dragon Mark. He activated the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, and rays of golden light emerged from the Dragon Mark on his forehead. Not long after, he transformed into a true dragon. He raised his head high and his huge dragon body coiled up. His entire body was bathed in an intense golden light. He was already familiar with cultivating the advanced version of the Dragon God technique. The Dragon God technique had always been closely related to one's cultivation. Now that Tang Zheng had raised his cultivation by 2 levels, the Dragon God technique's improvement was also a matter of course. However, Tang Zheng was still shocked by the speed of his improvement. He had not been circulating the advanced version of the Dragon God technique for too long, and he had a feeling that a breakthrough was imminent. This was easier than any of the previous breakthroughs of the Dragon God technique. It was as if it was at his fingertips. One had to know that this was the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, not the Dragon God technique. This was an advanced version of the Dragon God technique that was harder to break through as one progressed. Otherwise, with the Dragon King's cultivation, how could he stop at the 10th level of Langia? The change this time made Tang Zheng overjoyed. He quickly calmed his mind and allowed the advanced version of the Dragon God technique to circulate wildly. The dragon's aura emitted from his body spread in all directions. Even the thick walls could not stop it. The dragon guards outside suddenly changed their expressions. They all knelt in this direction and trembled. They did not dare to show the slightest bit of disrespect. Tang Zheng was completely unaware. He was completely immersed in the wonderful feeling of the advanced version of the Dragon God technique. Boom! 2 rays of golden light shot out from his eyes. Wherever it passed, the air burned and turned into 2 bundles of flames. The walls collapsed with a loud bang. The 2nd stage of the advanced version of the Dragon God technique. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. There was a voice in his heart that was cheering. His excited emotions could not be calmed down.
However, before he could savor it, he was shocked by another sign.
The advanced version of the Dragon God technique was restless. There seemed to be signs of another breakthrough. Breaking through 2 levels in one go. Was this really possible? This was soaring to the sky in one go.
One had to know that the Dragon King had been cultivating the advanced version of the Dragon God technique.
After such a long time, he did not have any new breakthroughs. However, Tang Zheng actually improved by leaps and bounds in such a short period of time. It was really unbelievable. Apart from the great increase in my cultivation, it must be because of the Dragon God fragment. I have fused with the Dragon God fragment, which is originally helpful for cultivating the Dragon Clan's remarkable abilities. It is naturally no exception for cultivating the advanced version of the Dragon God technique. The combination of the two resulted in the current effect. Tang Zheng silently analyzed and found the reason. He was still excited. No matter what the reason was, the result was the most important. He was about to break through to the 3rd stage of the advanced version of the Dragon God technique. Could this succeed? If it succeeded, he would be able to ascend 2 levels in one go. Not only would he be able to obtain 2 divine weapons in Langia, but most importantly, he would be able to fuse with 2 Dragon God fragments. 1 Dragon God fragment had benefited him greatly. If he fused with 2 more, what would he become? Would he break through the ceiling above his head? Chapter 1745. Boom. Another loud noise was heard. The vital energy in Tang Zheng's body surged, almost breaking through the restraints of his meridians and surging out of his body. Phew! Tang Zheng took a deep breath and suppressed this momentum.
The corner of his mouth curled up into a smile.
The 3rd stage. He muttered softly, completely lacking the world-shaking aura he had when he was at the 2nd level. Instead, it was natural and unperturbed like an ancient well. He succeeded. He soared to the sky in one go and cultivated the 3rd stage of the advanced version of the Dragon God technique. Time is of the essence. I don't have the chance to slowly experience it. Let's go to Langia first. With a thought, his divine sense completely entered Langia. He didn't go to the upright Langia first. Instead, he went to the inverted Langia, where the Dragon God fragment was. Compared to the sacred weapon, the Dragon God fragment was more attractive to him. The inverted Langia. When Tang Zheng looked at the scene in front of him, he muttered to himself, I haven't heard of other dragons going to the 11th floor. The Dragon God fragment should still be there. Dong dong dong. He went down the stairs and went straight to the 11th floor of Langia. Not long after, another figure also appeared in the inverted Langia. Dragon King. He also entered Langia. His aura was actually quite different from before. He had also broken through the 2nd stage of the advanced version. He followed Tang Zheng's footsteps to Langia and went straight to the inverted Langia. Their goal was the Dragon God fragment. Tang Zheng didn't know that there were pursuers behind him. He had already arrived at the 11th floor of Langia. As expected, he easily reached the 11th floor. A ball of golden light floated in mid-air. If it wasn't the Dragon God fragment, what else could it be? Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief. Since the Dragon God fragment on the 11th floor was still there, it meant that he was the first one to arrive here. He was secretly relieved that he didn't break through the advanced version of the Dragon God technique in time. He almost made a big mistake and gave away the Dragon God fragment. There were many geniuses in the dragon race. If someone beat him to it, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. Merging the Dragon God fragment was a complicated project, but he already had experience. Moreover, he already had a part of the Dragon God fragment in his body. Therefore, when he activated his power, both parts of the Dragon God fragment worked. There was actually a strong attractive force. Whoosh! He flew up and flew towards the golden light in the air. Ha! Tang Zheng was surprised. Last time, he had to absorb the Dragon God fragment before he could fuse with it. But this time, he directly flew towards the Dragon God fragment. It seemed that every time he absorbed a Dragon God fragment, there would be new changes. He was completely drawn into the Dragon God fragment and bathed in golden light, making it impossible to see his appearance clearly. Coincidentally, the Dragon King had also reached the 11th floor. He was originally full of hope, but he was dealt a blow to the head.
He was dumbstruck as he looked at the scene before him. This! The Dragon King almost lost his composure and screamed.
He had never expected that someone would beat him to it.
The Dragon God Fragment. He stared at the ball of golden light and immediately determined that it was the Dragon God Fragment. The powerful dragon might emitted from it could not be faked.
He swallowed his saliva. He was a little angry, but he was also a little unwilling. Who was it?
He was actually faster than him, reaching this level one step ahead of him.
Who was more talented than him? He couldn't figure it out.
He stared at the golden light unwillingly. Although he could not see the figure clearly, there was no doubt that this person's cultivation was not weak.
No. Suddenly, the Dragon King let out a shout as he discovered something unusual. How could he find other dragons in Langia? Every dragon in Langia was relatively independent. They each went their own way and did not interfere with each other. Otherwise, with so many dragons, there would definitely be dragons entering Langia at the same time. Wouldn't that make Langia a vegetable market? It was precisely this independence that ensured that every dragon in Langia would have their own gains. Moreover, they could cultivate in Langia without worrying about being disturbed. At this moment, what did the Dragon King see? He actually saw another dragon wrapped in golden light and floating in mid-air. Another dragon appeared in front of him. This was something that was impossible, but he quietly discovered it in front of him. What did this mean? What exactly caused all this? The Dragon King was stunned and could not speak for a long time. Seeing that the golden light was getting lesser and lesser, which meant that the Dragon God Fragment was getting lesser and lesser. It was obvious that the other party had merged with it. The Dragon King came back to his senses and looked at this scene unwillingly. No, how can I let others have the Dragon God Fragment for free? I have to find a way to merge with it. He tried to soar into the air. Bang! But before he could jump too high, he fell back down heavily, his feet hitting the ground. What's going on? He could not fly in the air. Although the golden light was not far away, it seemed to be far away. Why can that person fly up but I, the Dragon King, can't? He was unwilling to admit defeat. He tried a few more times and his feet hit the ground a few times. Only then did he have to give up and recognize the cruel reality. There was something strange about Langia. He could not fly in the air, let alone get close to the Dragon God Fragment and merge with it. He could only watch as the Dragon God Fragment was taken away by someone else. He looked at it with envy and jealousy. He wished he could replace it, but that was just a fool's dream. Of course, Tang Zheng did not know that he could fly in the air and fly directly into the Dragon God Fragment because of the part of the Dragon God Fragment that he had merged with in the past. The two parts of the Dragon God Fragment had an instinctive attraction. It cancelled out Tang Zheng's restraint and allowed him to fly freely toward the Dragon God Fragment. He did not know that his every move was seen by the Dragon King, nor did he know that others had entered the 11th level. His whole body and mind were on the Dragon God Fragment. He kept absorbing the Dragon God Fragment and his body began to change. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Golden light shot out from his body and dyed this level of Langia golden. His body quickly changed and turned into a true dragon. The dragon horns on his head grew rapidly, showing even more dragon power. The dragon scales all over his body were dazzling and had undergone an earth-shattering change. The Dragon King looked at this scene in a daze. He was envious. If he had been a little earlier, all these changes would have happened to him and not this guy. That was because Tang Zheng had turned into a true dragon. Although the golden light gradually dissipated and he revealed his true appearance, the Dragon King did not recognize him immediately. He racked his brains to compare the powerhouses of the Dragon Clan. Who was more powerful than him? The early bird caught the worm first. But after comparing for a while, he still could not come to a conclusion. Roar! Tang Zheng's dragon roar resounded throughout Langia. He raised his head high. He did not see the Dragon King at all, but the dragon power of the Dragon God was emitted and covered the sky. Thump! Chapter 1746. Tang Zheng's dragon might gradually dissipated, and the golden light around his body also disappeared. Only then did he lower his head and happened to see the Dragon King kneeling on the ground. Elegant and refined. He was shocked and hurriedly turned into a human and landed in front of the Dragon King. He exclaimed, "Dragon King, why are you here?" The Dragon King stood up in a sorry state and said with a resentful expression,
I have already broken through to the second tier of the advanced version and reached the 11th floor. He felt bitter in his mouth. What was the use of reaching the 11th floor?
Tang Zheng had beaten him to it. He didn't even get the Dragon God fragment.
Tang Zheng looked at the Dragon King with a burning gaze, as if he had guessed his thoughts. He smiled bitterly and said, I also just broke through and then came here.
This is your opportunity.
The Dragon King shook his head and comforted himself. I will definitely work harder to comprehend the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, and strive to reach the 12th floor as soon as possible to fuse with the Dragon God fragment. The Dragon King was naturally not someone who would be defeated so easily. His fighting spirit was instantly reignited. That. Tang Zheng touched his nose, not knowing where to start.
The Dragon King frowned and asked, If you have something to say, please say it.
Tang Zheng said softly, Actually, I can already reach the 12th floor.
What?
The Dragon King was shocked and asked in bewilderment, You have broken through to the 3rd tier of the advanced version.
Yes.
Tang Zheng nodded. The Dragon King's eyes instantly dimmed as he experienced what despair was. He was originally full of confidence that he would break through to the 3rd tier of the advanced version first. Who would have thought that Tang Zheng had already broken through? Wasn't this a slap in the face? How could he still be ahead of Tang Zheng? He was clearly left far behind by Tang Zheng. He could not catch up. The Dragon King's proud head involuntarily drooped down, as if all the energy in his body had been sucked away. Don't be discouraged. Maybe next time you break through a few tiers, you will naturally be able to reach a higher floor. Tang Zheng comforted. The corner of the Dragon King's mouth twitched.
Breaking through several levels at once? Do you think it's so easy? Do you think everyone is as abnormal as you?
If someone else was one step ahead of him, then that person would be leading by every step. Naturally, the Dragon God fragment would be cut off from him, and almost all of it would be taken by Tang Zheng for himself. He didn't want to admit this, but he had no choice but to accept reality. Sigh. He heaved a long heavy sigh and stopped thinking about it. Tang Zheng was helpless and didn't know where to start. He was still in a hurry to go to the next floor. He was about to turn around when he suddenly stared at the Dragon King with an incredulous look in his eyes. Dragon King, why can we see each other now?
Tang Zheng's exclamation pulled the Dragon King out of his self-pity.
The Dragon King also stared at Tang Zheng with a burning gaze. He had also been thinking about this problem before. You don't know the answer either? The Dragon King asked. Tang Zheng looked around thoughtfully and said, Maybe it has something to do with the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, or this Langya Pavilion? The Dragon King nodded as if he had understood something. He was also inclined to this answer. I'll figure out the answer later. I'm going to go to the 12th floor first. Tang Zheng had to take advantage of the time to go to the next floor to integrate the Dragon God fragment. Otherwise, it would be terrible if he was kicked out of the Langya Pavilion. The Dragon King wanted to say something but stopped. He couldn't hide the envy in his eyes. He really wanted to go to the 12th floor himself. Seeing that the Dragon King didn't say anything, Tang Zheng looked at him deeply and resolutely turned around to go to the 12th floor. The Dragon King watched him leave with envy and jealousy as he disappeared at the top of the stairs. He moved to the stairs leading to the 12th floor and tried to take a step. With a bang, he was bounced back and staggered a few steps back before stabilizing his body. He shook his head in despair and looked at the stairs reluctantly. He knew that he was really cut off from the Dragon God fragment. After a long while, he collected his emotions and turned to leave quickly. He went straight to the other Langya Pavilion. However, when he reached the 11th floor, the Dragon King's angry roar came from the 11th floor and resounded throughout the Langya Pavilion. When Tang Zheng reached the 12th floor, it was the same as before. A ball of golden light floated in the air, and with his experience, he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and directly flew up. Whoosh whoosh. The Dragon God fragment quickly integrated with him. It was perfect. He transformed into a dragon again. His dragon horns had increased a little, and his body had almost doubled in size. He was full of dragon's might. Finally, he integrated the Dragon God fragment again. He felt that he had endless strength and was full of fighting spirit. He couldn't wait to find someone to fight. This feeling was really awesome. He reluctantly left the Langya Pavilion. Suddenly, a roar came from afar. Although it was very weak, it didn't escape his ears.
He was shocked. Wasn't that the Dragon King's voice? He had just left not long ago. Why was he so angry? Could it be that he had encountered some danger? Could it be that the Dragon Slayer had come? But he didn't sense the Dragon Slayer. There must be something wrong. He quickly searched in the direction of the voice. Soon, he came to the other Langya Pavilion. When he saw this Langya Pavilion, he couldn't help but feel emotional. This Langya Pavilion was also full of treasures. However, compared to the Dragon God fragment, it seemed to pale in comparison. Even the so-called 8 great sacred weapons were the same. Oh right, the battle is imminent. If there is one more sacred weapon, it will naturally increase the battle power. I'll go upstairs and take out the sacred weapon first. In addition, he was also very curious about what the Dragon King had encountered. When he reached the 11th floor, he saw the Dragon King standing there in a daze. His whole body was emitting an angry aura. He asked anxiously, "Dragon King, what happened?" The Dragon King suddenly turned his head and stared at Tang Zheng. His eyes were burning with flames. "You've been here." Tang Zheng shook his head blankly. "No, I went to the other Langya Pavilion first." The Dragon King suddenly pointed at the empty shelf in the middle. "What about the sacred weapon here?" "Sacred weapon?" Tang Zheng was shocked. He stared blankly at the empty shelf. Without a doubt, there must have been something on it. However, it was gone now. It turned out that they had always judged that the 8 great sacred weapons of the Dragon Clan were placed in the remaining floors of the Langya Pavilion. The last time they took a sacred weapon from here, it also confirmed this point. But now, they were empty-handed. What did this mean? It was indeed worth thinking about and thought-provoking. Seeing that the Dragon King was unable to restrain his anger, Tang Zheng could understand his feelings. He said thoughtfully, "Could it be that the Dragon Clan had also comprehended the advanced version of the second level and came here first?" The Dragon Clan didn't lack geniuses. The advanced version of the Dragon God technique was imparted to every Dragon Clan member. Then, there might be a Dragon Clan member who comprehended the second level first and took away the sacred weapon. The Dragon King's eyes lit up. Who else in the Dragon Clan has this ability? Chapter 1747. The Fortune of the Dragon Clan? The Dragon King did not agree with this point and said indignantly, "Who else in the Dragon Clan has such talent?" The Dragon King knew the situation of the Dragon Clan very well. If there was someone with exceptional talent, they would have escaped from the clan long ago. After all, the Dragon Clan was not like the human world where there would be some powerful hermits. The Dragon Clan was a race that thirsted for power. If they had the strength, they would definitely not hide in the mountains and do things like that. When we leave Langya Pavilion, we will naturally know. Tang Zheng comforted. The Dragon King was still angry, but there was nothing he could do. Tang Zheng glanced at the staircase and said, "The sacred weapon on this floor is no longer here, but the one on the 12th floor is definitely here. I will go and get it." The Dragon King's heart sank. Tang Zheng could say these words so casually, but he could not do anything about it. He was still hoping for the 11th floor. As for the 12th floor, that was a place he did not dare to hope for. Tang Zheng did not care about the Dragon King's complicated thoughts and went straight to the 12th floor, leaving the Dragon King to look at his back reluctantly. On the 12th floor, Tang Zheng's eyes were attracted by a scene as soon as he reached the top. An umbrella floated quietly in the air, emitting a mysterious light. What kind of magic treasure is this? Tang Zheng's eyes widened in surprise. No matter what kind of magic treasure it was, he had to get it first. He reached out his hand and a huge suction force enveloped the magic treasure, causing it to struggle. Whoosh! The umbrella opened up, and multicolored rays of light scattered in all directions, overflowing with light and vibrant colors. It was exceptionally beautiful. A powerful force surged from the umbrella, and the 3 sacred patterns on the umbrella were especially eye-catching. 3 sacred patterns. Tang Zheng was shocked. This sacred weapon was indeed extraordinary. It actually only had 3 sacred patterns. Although it was not as simple as the sacred patterns on the hidden mysterious sword, it was not complicated either. The mighty force fought back against Tang Zheng's suction force, but in the end, it could not resist and flew into Tang Zheng's palm. A wave of energy surged through Tang Zheng's body. He lowered his head and found that there were many beautiful decorative patterns on the umbrella. The limitless umbrella, So gaudy, this is a magic weapon for women, right? Tang Zheng laughed involuntarily. When the magic weapon entered his hand, the name of the magic weapon naturally appeared in his mind. The Limitless Umbrella was the name of this magic treasure. This Wuxia umbrella definitely has a big background. The Dragon King definitely knows about it. When he went downstairs to look for the Dragon King, he found that the Dragon King was no longer in the Langya Pavilion. Ha! Did the Dragon King leave first? Impossible. The Dragon King was so obsessed with the divine relic. How could he leave without taking a look? There was definitely something fishy going on. He quickly left the Langya Pavilion, but he felt a little strange. It seemed that he had been in the Langya Pavilion for quite some time, but he was not kicked out. This was very strange. Bang bang bang. Before he had the time to reflect on his trip to Langya Pavilion, there was a heavy knock on the door of the secret chamber. It sounded like someone was in a hurry. He frowned and muttered to himself, "Don't you know that I'm cultivating? Why are you knocking on the door so anxiously?" He shook his head and walked out. When he opened the door, he saw many people standing at the door, staring at him with bright eyes. Among them were the Dragon King, the Dragon Envoy, the Empyrean Fairy, and the Golden Dragon. The Dragon King left without saying goodbye in the Langya Pavilion. Why are you looking for me in such a hurry? He muttered to himself, but before he could ask, the Dragon King spoke first. What is the divine relic on the 12th floor? Tang Zheng smiled knowingly. So that was what he wanted to know. With a thought, a beam of light rose from his hand and immediately attracted the gazes of all the people present. The Limitless Umbrella. The Dragon King stared at this scene with burning eyes and cried out involuntarily. The other dragon envoys also looked at the Limitless Umbrella excitedly. This was the legendary divine relic with unparalleled power. They did not expect it to appear so soon. The Empyrean Fairy secretly praised it for its beauty. She was deeply attracted by the aura of the Limitless Umbrella. Seeing that everyone recognized the divine relic, Tang Zheng asked curiously, "The Limitless Umbrella must have a great background. Why don't the Dragon King explain it to everyone?" The Dragon King said emotionally, "The Limitless Umbrella is a magical treasure refined by a dragon envoy of the Dragon Clan hundreds of thousands of years ago. It was not a divine relic at first, but after continuous refinement and upgrading by the Dragon Envoy, the Limitless Umbrella finally became a divine relic." "Oh, this Dragon Envoy is indeed powerful," Tang Zheng praised. "Of course," the Dragon King echoed. "This Dragon Envoy is the first female Dragon Envoy since ancient times." Female Dragon Envoy. Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment. His gaze fell on the Limitless Umbrella. From what he knew, the Dragon Clan was a male-dominated world. Be it experts or those in power, they were almost all men. To be able to sit on the throne of the Dragon Envoy in such a male-dominated society, one had to admit that she was too powerful. The hard work and talent she had put in was definitely top-notch. Tang Zheng could not help but feel some admiration in his heart. The Dragon King sighed. "I didn't expect the Dragon Envoy's magical treasure to be placed on the 12th floor. Now that this divine relic has reappeared, it is the Dragon Clan's fortune." Tang Zheng looked around and realized that the Dragon King and the Dragon Envoy were all men. He said thoughtfully, "This Limitless Umbrella is a female magical treasure, right?" The Dragon King and the Dragon Envoy were stunned. They only thought that the divine relic would reappear, but they did not expect that this divine relic would have a limitation. The Limitless Umbrella was different from other magical treasures. Usually, the mark of a magical treasure's gender was not strong. After all, if the previous owner was a man, the next owner could be a woman. However, the Limitless Umbrella was different. It was in the hands of the Dragon Envoy from the moment it was born. It was also the result of the Dragon Envoy's hundreds and thousands of years of hard work. Every time it was refined and upgraded, it was based on the Dragon Envoy's habits. The higher the grade of the Limitless Umbrella, the deeper the mark. In the end, it became an inseparable part of the Limitless Umbrella. Therefore, after the Dragon Envoy died, the Limitless Umbrella was never passed down to the next Dragon Clan member. This was because no Dragon Clan member was qualified to use this divine relic. There was no more female Dragon Clan member who was qualified to use the Limitless Umbrella. The Limitless Umbrella was like a pearl covered in dust, never to shine again.
The Dragon King and the Dragon Envoy looked at each other. They were troubled by the situation in front of them. All the Dragon Envoys wanted a divine relic, but no one was willing to take the limitless umbrella. An unsuitable divine relic was not much more powerful than a heaven-level magical treasure. In fact, it could even ruin things at critical moments. Therefore, none of the Dragon Envoys had the intention to take it. Everyone had the same look in their eyes. Why was it the limitless umbrella? If it was any other magical treasure, they would give up on it no matter what. The limitless umbrella is a magical treasure of the Dragon Clan after all. Let's keep it first. It will come in handy in the future. The Dragon King said resentfully. Tang Zhang did not expect this to be the result. However, he saw through their thoughts and suddenly had a plan.
Chapter 1748. Tang Zhang had an idea.
He looked at the Empyrean Fairy and said, Dragon King, since the Wuxia umbrella is useless for the time being, why don't we give it to someone who can use it first?
What do you have in mind? The Dragon King looked at Tang Zhang curiously. The other dragons also looked at Tang Zhang.
Tang Zhang smiled and said, The Wuxia umbrella is a divine weapon specifically targeted at females, right?
All the dragons nodded. Don't we have a female expert here? Isn't the Wuxia umbrella suitable for her?
Tang Zhang said meaningfully. Female expert?
Where is she?
The dragons looked at each other, but did not find any female expert. The Dragon King had an idea and his eyes fell on the Fairy of the Nine Heavens. He asked in surprise, Are you referring to her?
Yes. Tang Zhang nodded.
The other Dragon Claness suddenly realized that Tang Zhang was beating around the bush, and was actually referring to the mysterious Lady of the Nine Heavens.
What kind of expert is she?
The Dragon Envoy was indignant. They were not willing to let an outsider take advantage of the Dragon Clan's divine weapon. The Empyrean Fairy felt strange, but she did not refute Tang Zhang. At the same time, she looked at the Wuxia umbrella that was emitting light. Without a doubt, this divine weapon was very attractive to her. If there was a chance to get this divine weapon, she would definitely not reject it.
Who doesn't think she's an expert?
Tang Zhang looked around with a half-smile. A Dragon Envoy stood up and said, I don't believe it.
It's okay if you don't believe it. After the challenge, we'll see.
Tang Zhang glanced at the Dragon Envoy. He was also in the Mahayana realm, but the Empyrean Fairy was still a little weaker. The Dragon Envoy was eager to try and stared at the Empyrean Fairy. His provocation could not be more obvious. The Empyrean Fairy was calm and did not seem to care about the challenge at all. The Dragon Envoy thought that she was afraid and became even more arrogant. Tang Zhang's lips curled into a smile, but he didn't say anything.
Stand down.
The Dragon King suddenly shouted.
Don't make a fool of yourself.
The Dragon King's discerning eyes could certainly see through the Empyrean Fairy. The Dragon Envoy's face turned red, but he did not dare to disobey the Dragon King's order. He retreated resentfully. The Dragon King and Tang Zhang looked into each other's eyes. Neither of them flinched. Tang Zhang's eyes were firm. Tang Zhang had made up his mind, and the Dragon King had obviously seen through it. Tang Zhang was not an overbearing person. He was the one who obtained the limitless umbrella, so he had the right to distribute it. Moreover, this was only a temporary measure. In order to prepare for the upcoming battle, the Wuxia umbrella could help the Empyrean Fairy increase her battle strength. Naturally, it would also increase their overall strength. This was a matter of many benefits and no harm, so why not? All right, I'll lend the Wuxia umbrella to her temporarily. However, this is the sacred weapon of the Dragon Clan. It must be returned to the Dragon Clan in the future. We can't let it fall into the hands of outsiders, the Dragon King compromised. No problem, Tang Zhang agreed. With a tap of his finger, the Wuxia umbrella flew in front of the Empyrean Fairy. The Empyrean Fairy was immediately attracted by the 3 sacred patterns on the umbrella. Her breathing became rapid. This limitless umbrella was too extraordinary. She couldn't wait to try out its might. Study it carefully. There's a big battle coming up, and we'll need it, Tang Zhang reminded. The Empyrean Fairy nodded heavily. She reached out and grabbed the Wuxia umbrella. Immediately, a surge of energy spread throughout her body. She was full of fighting spirit and couldn't wait to fight for 3 days and 3 nights.
Not only did the Dragon King not fuse with the Dragon God fragment, he didn't even get a single sacred weapon. Furthermore, he had to watch the sacred weapon being handed over to someone else. The Dragon King was extremely depressed. However, he suddenly thought of something else. His eyes lit up and he said, since the 12th floor is the Wuxia umbrella, then the 11th floor must be another sacred weapon. Where's this sacred weapon? Why didn't we see a trace of it? Yes, where's the sacred weapon on the 11th floor? Who got it first? The other dragon ambassadors started to stir up a commotion. The Dragon King stared at Tang Zheng without blinking. It was as if he knew the whereabouts of the sacred weapon. Of course, Tang Zheng did not know. He spread out his hands and said, I don't know either. I'm fine too. However, it must have fallen into the hands of the Dragon Clan. The Dragon King gathered the experts of the Dragon Clan. Naturally, there will be an answer. How could the Dragon King not know this? After he was forced to leave the Langya Pavilion, he had already gathered the Dragon ambassadors to discuss this matter. However, in the end, they did not discover such an expert at all. They walked into a dead end and there was only darkness in front of them. Seeing that the Dragon King was silent, Tang Zheng knew that his words would be useless. He shrugged helplessly and was about to say that he could not help. However, the Golden Dragon stopped Tang Zheng and said, Master, there's something I've always wanted to tell you, but I didn't have the chance. Let's talk about it later. Tang Zheng waved his hand and said. The Dragon King and the Dragon ambassadors glared at the Golden Dragon. They were talking about serious matters now. Who would have the time to talk about your business? The Golden Dragon understood what they meant. However, he took a deep breath and forced himself to say, Master, I really do have something to tell you. What are you doing? One of the Dragon ambassadors could not stand it anymore and scolded him. Tang Zheng was very protective of his people. How could he bear to see others scold his people? He rolled his eyes and encouraged the Golden Dragon, saying, What's the matter? Say it now. I'm listening. Seeing Tang Zheng's attitude, the other Dragon ambassadors were indignant but could not do anything. They could only look at the Golden Dragon quietly to see what was so important that he had to say at this time. Master, I've made a breakthrough in the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, the Golden Dragon said. What? You've made a breakthrough? Congratulations. Tang Zheng did not react immediately and instinctively felt happy. However, he immediately realized that the Golden Dragon must have had a deeper meaning at this critical time. After all, the Golden Dragon was not stupid. Tang Zheng stared at the Golden Dragon seriously and asked, What level of the advanced version are you at now? The 2nd level. The Golden Dragon said embarrassedly. My improvement was not fast. I spent a lot of effort and time to cross these 2 hurdles step by step. What? The Dragon King and the Dragon ambassadors reacted first and stole the limelight from Tang Zheng. You said you've already cultivated to the 2nd level of the advanced version of the Dragon God technique? The Dragon King asked angrily. The Golden Dragon nodded bitterly. Yes. Then when did you reach the 2nd level? The Dragon King asked. The others also wanted this answer and looked at the Golden Dragon. A few days ago, before Master came to the Dragon City. I was so happy to see Master that I forgot about this for a moment. Actually, I've always wanted to tell you, but I didn't have the chance. As soon as he said this, the group of dragons exploded. They were completely outdone, and even the Dragon King was outdone. The Dragon King's starting point was higher than the Golden Dragon's, but his gains and achievements were not as good as the Golden Dragon's. This was enough to explain a lot of problems. Suddenly, everyone looked at the Golden Dragon in a different light. In addition, wouldn't the question that puzzled everyone be easily solved, and the answer would be obvious? Chapter 1749. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, the Golden Dragon lowered his head shyly and explained, I didn't mean to hide it. I just didn't have the time to tell you. The Dragon King had mixed feelings and asked, You took the divine artifact from the 11th floor, right? The Golden Dragon nodded. Although everyone was mentally prepared, they were still shocked when the truth was revealed. They looked at the Golden Dragon with mixed feelings. Back then, the Dragon King gave the order that the divine artifact would belong to whoever obtained it first, right? The Golden Dragon asked anxiously. Once he returned to the Dragon Clan, the Golden Dragon's role changed drastically. In the human world, he was a high and mighty member of the Dragon Clan and would not allow anyone to disobey him. But in the Dragon Clan, he was just an ordinary member and did not receive any special treatment. The Golden Dragon understood that treasuring a treasure would arouse the envy of others, so he was afraid that the divine artifact would be taken away. Tang Zheng already understood that the divine artifact had fallen into the Golden Dragon's hands. He smiled and said loudly, "Golden Dragon, your worries are unnecessary."
Since the Dragon King gave this order, his words are not to be trifled with.
The Dragon King gave this order to encourage everyone to work hard in their cultivation. How could the Dragon King go back on his words? Although he also coveted the divine artifact, he could not slap his own face.
Even though the other dragon envoys were looking at him with burning eyes, the Dragon King nodded and said, "Of course."
The Golden Dragon heaved a sigh of relief and smiled, "Thank you, Dragon King." The Dragon King urged, "Then let everyone see what kind of divine artifact you have."
Yes.
The Golden Dragon raised his hand excitedly and a ball of golden light appeared in his palm. The golden light grew bigger and bigger. Whoosh! The golden light grew longer and revealed its true appearance. It was a whip shining with golden light. But it was different from ordinary magic treasures. It emitted a soul-stirring power. Even though everyone present was a powerhouse, when they sensed this power, their hearts wavered unsteadily. "Holy Whip!" The Dragon King cried out. Hiss! The other dragon envoys gasped and stared at the Holy Whip with envy. The Golden Dragon nodded. "Yes, this is the Holy Whip." Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy didn't know the inside story, so they asked curiously, "Why?" "Deity Striking Whip. That's a pretty impressive name. What's its use?" The Golden Dragon glanced at the Dragon King and the Dragon Envoy and said, "The power of the Holy Whipping Whip is very strong. Once hit by the Holy Whipping Whip, those with weaker cultivation will have their spirit destroyed. Even those with stronger cultivation will have their spirit damaged." Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy felt a chill run down their spines. Who would have thought that the Holy Whip would be so powerful? No wonder the dragon race would turn pale at the mere mention of it. The Dragon King sighed. "I didn't expect you to have the great divine whip." Tang Zheng could guess what the other dragons were thinking. Perhaps they were jealous and dissatisfied. But so what? The Golden Dragon was one of his people, so others could only be jealous. He had to help the Golden Dragon hold the fort, so he said meaningfully, "Dragon King, shouldn't I congratulate you? Another genius has appeared in the Dragon Clan. If the Dragon Clan had more geniuses like this, then we wouldn't have to worry about the Dragon Clan not prospering." "Master, how am I a genius?" the Golden Dragon said embarrassedly. Tang Zheng looked at him encouragingly and said with certainty, "You are a genius. This is an undeniable fact. Have you seen any other Dragon Clan member reach the 11th floor before you?" "No." Although the Golden Dragon didn't say it out loud, that was the answer. This was an indisputable fact. The Dragon King and the Dragon Envoy were defeated, but they couldn't refute. The Dragon King took a deep breath and suppressed the frustration in his heart. He looked at the Golden Dragon and said firmly, "You are indeed a genius of the Dragon Clan. Don't worry and keep the Holy Whip. I hope you won't let it go to waste." The Golden Dragon nodded excitedly and said, "Yes, I will remember the Dragon King's teachings. I will not let the Holy Whip go to waste." Tang Zheng smiled dejectedly. In fact, he didn't expect the Golden Dragon to have such a talent. This was a pleasant surprise. It was better for Tang Zheng if the holy weapon fell into the hands of the Golden Dragon rather than the other Dragon Clan members. In fact, there was a deep reason why the Golden Dragon could be ahead of all the other Dragon Clan members. The Golden Dragon had been imprisoned under the Imperial City for hundreds of years. His body and mind had been tortured and trained. This training was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to persevere. However, the Golden Dragon persevered. Although his cultivation seemed to be lower than before, everything changed when he flew in the sky and regained his freedom. Quantitative changes led to qualitative changes. The subtle changes accumulated over hundreds of years led to earth-shaking changes. Therefore, when the Golden Dragon cultivated the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, this quality completely exploded. He broke through to the second level of the advanced version before all the other Dragon Clan members and reached the 11th floor of the Langya Pavilion. When he reached the 11th floor of the Langya Pavilion and saw the Holy Whip emitting divine power,
The golden dragon almost couldn't believe his eyes. He had finally succeeded.
Chapter 1750. The Dragon Clan was well aware of the importance of the Langya Pavilion. The importance of the Dragon God Fragment and Dragon Soul to the Dragon Clan was self-evident, not to mention the Dragon Slayers. If the Dragon Slayers' nest was attacked, the Dragon Slayers might attack the Langya Pavilion in desperation. The Langya Pavilion was not like other places. It was not a place where the Dragon Clan could stay. Therefore, it was not easy to leave a part of the Dragon Clan to deal with the Langya Pavilion's crisis. The Dragon King had already acquiesced to Tang Zheng's suggestion, but he still asked, how can the Dragon Clan accurately know that the Dragon Slayers have invaded the Langya Pavilion? Moreover, the Langya Pavilion is independent for every Dragon Clan. If they can't see other Dragon Clan members in the Langya Pavilion, they might not see the Dragon Slayers. If they can't even see the enemy, how can they fight back? As for your first question, I already have a solution. I have a special connection with the Langya Pavilion. Once the Dragon Slayers invade the Langya Pavilion, I can warn them. Tang Zheng smiled and said confidently, the other point is not a problem. Dragon King, have you forgotten that we have already met in the Langya Pavilion? Of course not. The Dragon King nodded. After that, I was puzzled and didn't understand what was going on. Tang Zheng was not clear at first, but when he fused with the third Dragon God Fragment, he gradually had a hint of understanding in his heart. There was a special seal in the Dragon Seal world that prevented the Dragon Clan from seeing other Dragon Clan members in the Langya Pavilion. However, this was not absolute. As long as one cultivated the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, this seal would become very weak. Therefore, when one cultivated to the second level of the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, this seal would be completely ineffective. The Dragon King and Tang Zheng saw each other. When Tang Zheng spoke tirelessly and made these secrets public, all of the Dragon Clan were stunned. So there was such a bizarre thing in the Dragon Seal world. The Dragon King suddenly realized that this was the reason. However, the Dragon King was immediately puzzled and asked, not all the Dragon Clan members have reached the second level of the advanced version of the Dragon God technique. As far as I know, only the three of us have reached it. Are we left in the Langya Pavilion? Tang Zheng smiled mysteriously and said, of course it doesn't have to be that complicated. Have you forgotten? Since this is a seal, there is naturally a way to break it. As long as you have enough power, it won't be difficult to find the way. It's as easy as lifting one's hand. The Dragon King's eyes lit up as he asked impatiently, do you know how to do that? Tang Zheng smiled and nodded. Indeed, I have a way to weaken the effect of this seal without completely removing it. Once you cultivate the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, the Dragon Clan will be able to see each other in the Dragon Seal world. Then they can unite and defend against external enemies. Is that true? The Dragon King asked excitedly. He was well aware of the importance of this and what it meant. Of course. Tang Zheng was very confident. I can weaken the seal now. You will know the effect once you try. Seeing how confident Tang Zheng was, the Dragon King and the other dragon ambassadors looked at each other and nodded in agreement. Wait a moment. I'll go first. Tang Zheng said. Wait a moment. The Dragon King stopped him. Didn't you just leave Langya Pavilion? Langya Pavilion has a time limit for the Dragon Clan. You can only enter once a month. That's right. The other Dragon Clan members nodded, including the Golden Dragon. This was a well-known fact among the Dragon Clan. Tang Zheng knew what everyone was thinking and said, this time, after I merged with the Dragon God Fragment, I didn't find anything out of the ordinary. But later on, I gradually found some clues. What clues? One of them is the seal I just mentioned. The other is that I can freely enter and exit Langya Pavilion without the time limit. Ah! Cries of surprise rang out. The Dragon King stared blankly at Tang Zheng in disbelief. That's right. You entered Langya Pavilion before me and stayed there longer. But because of the time limit, I was forced to leave Langya Pavilion first. There is only one logical explanation. You are not restricted by the time limit. The Dragon King's words woke the other Dragon Clan members up. All of them stared at him as if he was an alien. Langya Pavilion was the Dragon Clan's treasure ground. Every Dragon Clan member wanted to stay in Langya Pavilion for a while. But that was just wishful thinking. They didn't expect Tang Zheng to break through this restriction and be able to enter and leave Langya Pavilion at will. Moreover, he could freely control his time in Langya Pavilion. Envy, jealousy, and hatred. Pairs of dragon eyes were filled with such gazes. Even the Dragon King and the Golden Dragon were no exception. Is this the effect of the Dragon God fragment? The Dragon King hesitated for a moment and asked with a bitter face. Tang Zheng said bitterly, yes. He knew very well what the other Dragon Clan members were thinking. He had merged with the Dragon God fragment, which was completely beneficial to him. The other Dragon Clan members were naturally jealous, especially when they thought of the many magical effects of the Dragon God fragment. But this was reality. It couldn't be changed by anyone's will. The Dragon King looked deeply at Tang Zheng and took a deep breath. He suppressed his mixed feelings and said, I understand. The Dragon God fragment hasn't seen the light of day for so many years. Now that you have merged with the Dragon God fragment, it can be considered a blessing. At least the Dragon God fragment is no longer a pearl covered in dust. Actually, the Dragon King didn't say it out loud. Tang Zheng had already merged with so many Dragon God fragments. Once he finished fusing with all the Dragon God fragments, he would become the Dragon God of the Dragon Clan. He would be high and mighty, and even he, the Dragon King, couldn't be compared to him. The Dragon King was the lord of the Dragon Clan and had a noble status. But when he thought of being under Tang Zheng in the future, this kind of change in role made him feel uncomfortable. The Dragon King didn't think too much about the big picture. He suppressed this thought and said, then you can begin. Weaken the seal. With a thought, Tang Zheng's consciousness entered the Dragon Seal world again. Standing in front of Langya Pavilion, he activated the advanced version of the Dragon God technique and a golden light shot out from his hand. After the golden light flew out, it turned into small golden dragons and flew in 8 directions, disappearing from the ground. Hua! Pillars of golden light rose from the ground like pillars, connecting the earth and the empty sky. Boom, boom, boom. The Dragon Seal world shook. All the Dragon Clan members felt the Dragon Seal world shaking and were shocked. Many of them wanted to enter the Dragon Seal world, but they found that they couldn't make any progress. The Dragon King immediately ordered a dragon envoy to pacify the Dragon Clan and not cause panic. Otherwise, it would be counterproductive. The Dragon Clan was shaken. All the Dragon Clan members looked at each other in dismay. They didn't know what was going on. Some Dragon Clan members even directly flew towards the Dragon Palace. Chapter 1751. The golden light pillar's radiance gradually dissipated, and the Dragon Seal world returned to tranquility. A mysterious change quietly occurred. When the golden light completely disappeared, the seal of the Dragon Seal world had weakened. We can enter the Dragon Seal world now. The dragons suddenly discovered that the strange resistance had disappeared, and everything returned to normal. Quickly enter the Dragon Seal world and see what happened. Thus, many dragons entered the Dragon Seal world one after another. When they stood in Langya, they discovered that there was no difference. Lang Yaju stood there quietly, unmoving. There's no change. The dragons muttered to themselves one after another. But they immediately discovered something strange, because there were many similar voices in their ears. This was something that had never happened before. In the past, there was only themselves in the Dragon Seal world, and no other voices. What's going on? They turned their heads to look. What did they see? The group of dragons were taken aback, and their eyeballs almost popped out. They saw numerous dragons standing in Langya, watching. They actually saw other dragons in the Dragon Seal world. This was something that had never happened before, something that subverted their understanding. How could they not be surprised? They sucked in a breath of cold air, dumbstruck, and didn't know how to answer. Could all of this be related to the Dragon Seal world's tremors? What caused all of this? Question marks appeared one after another. The dragons seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Their faces were unsightly, and they lost their heads out of fear. Quiet, don't worry. Suddenly, a gentle voice sounded, and a figure slowly rose into the sky. A dragon flew up. There was no way to fly in the Dragon Seal world, so how did this person do it? Dragon God Envoy. A sharp-eyed dragon immediately recognized this person, and shouted. Right, it's the Dragon God Envoy. The group of dragons boiled and stopped to watch. Their eyes were fixed on Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng looked down at the dragons below him. Other dragons were unable to fly in the dragon seal world, but he was different. He had fused with the dragon god fragment and could freely fly in the dragon seal world. Furthermore, not only could his divine sense enter the dragon seal world, but his physical body could also enter. Now, he was the same as the other dragons, using divine sense. But his divine sense had a specific image in the dragon seal world, and was exactly the same as his physical body. Dragon God Envoy, what's going on? The dragon clan began to ask all at once. Calm down. I know that everyone has many questions in their hearts, but I will answer them one by one. First, let me announce something. From today onwards, you will be able to see each other in the dragon seal world. You will be able to see your own clansmen, companions, friends, and relatives. All of you will be able to cultivate together in the dragon seal world and climb to an even higher level of Langya. Tang Zheng said in a clear voice. His voice seemed to have magic, as it clearly entered the ears of every dragon, deeply imprinting itself into their hearts. Ah, so that's the case. No wonder we can see each other. But why is it like this? What happened? That's right. Is this good or bad for the dragon seal world and Langya? Quiet, quiet. Tang Zheng's voice was as loud as a bell, completely covering the chattering of the dragons. He said, "This is something I deliberately did. The dragon seal world has a seal that prevents us from meeting each other in the dragon seal world. This is to prevent us from interfering with each other. This is the dragon clan's ancestors' love for us. However, once we reach great success in the Dragon God technique and cultivate the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, we will be able to break through this restriction and meet each other in the Dragon Seal world." The dragons looked at each other in dismay. They were puzzled and asked, "Why are you doing this?" That's right. Since the ancestor laid down this seal, he definitely had his considerations. Tang Zheng replied, "Of course the ancestor had his considerations. That's because the ancestor was worried that when our cultivation wasn't high enough, we wouldn't be able to wholeheartedly cultivate in the Dragon Seal world. Therefore, he deliberately blocked each other. But now that we've started cultivating the advanced version of the Dragon God technique, it means that our cultivation is strong enough and we don't need to fear each other's interference. It's precisely because of this reason that I weakened the power of the seal, so that everyone can help each other in the Dragon Seal world and verify each other. Perhaps this will increase the efficiency of cultivation." The dragons gradually came to a realization. The worries in their hearts were gradually dispelled. Many people were eager to give it a try. This kind of novel feeling was too wonderful. Originally, entering the Dragon Seal world alone without a single companion to talk to was truly lonely. So much so that it was occasionally a kind of torment. But now it was completely different. It was refreshing. Looking at the excited dragons, Tang Zheng inwardly nodded. At least it didn't cause too much of a disturbance. Furthermore, everyone was happy to accept this change. In addition, after the seal is weakened, your time in the Dragon Seal world will not be limited. Tang Zheng threw out another bombshell. Even the Dragon King wasn't aware of this before. What? Each and every one of the dragons were stupefied. They never thought that there would be such an effect. You're saying that we can freely enter and exit the Dragon Seal world in the future? We can stay here as long as we want. Tang Zheng solemnly looked at them and heavily nodded. Yes. From now on, the restriction will be removed. You can freely enter and exit the Dragon Seal world. You can stay here as long as you want. Wah! Immediately, the group of dragons boiled, turning into a sea of cheers. The dragons' cultivation speed in the Dragon Seal world was faster, and their comprehension of divine abilities was also faster. This was a well-known fact. Therefore, in the past, the dragons were all eager to stay in the Dragon Seal world for a while. But with the restriction, they had no way to break through it. Even staying a little longer was an extravagant hope. Now that the restriction no longer existed, their wild joy could be imagined. Thank you, Dragon God Envoy, for your great kindness. The dragons knelt down one after another, saluting Tang Zheng in the air. There was no need to guess. They knew that this was the Dragon God Envoy's contribution, just like the advanced version of the Dragon God arts. The Dragon God Envoy had brought too many benefits to the dragons. Immediately,
His image in the hearts of the dragons became even greater. Tang Zhang smiled and said in a clear voice, "This is the blessing left behind by the ancestors of the Dragon Clan. It's the Dragon Clan's fortune, the Dragon Clan's fortune. Because the rise of the Dragon Clan is imperative." The crowd was excited. The dragons shouted one after another, "Rise of the Dragon Clan! Rise of the Dragon Clan!" After this earth-shaking change, the strength of the Dragon Clan would greatly increase. The rise of the Dragon Clan wasn't an extravagant hope. Unknowingly, the Dragon King and the other dragon envoys had already entered the Dragon Seal world. The dragon envoys' emotions were also affected. Their emotions were fluctuating. There were even some dragon envoys who raised their arms and cheered. They had waited for this day for too long. Chapter 1752. The day of the Dragon Clan's expedition had finally arrived. The Dragon Clan's army was densely packed. Their banners fluttered as they stood on the waves. They stood on the boundless sea and stretched out like a giant dragon. The Dragon King was at the head of the giant dragon. He was wearing a battle robe and looked majestic. Beside him was Tang Zheng. He was calm and composed, without any nervousness before the great battle. The other dragon envoys were excited beyond words. This was the day the Dragon Clan regained their glory. They had been waiting for this day for many years. To be able to witness this day would be the greatest fortune of their lives. Many people's gazes fell on one person. It wasn't the Dragon King, but the Dragon God envoy Tang Zhang beside him. His appearance made all of this a reality. If not for him, who knows how long this day would have been delayed. The Empyrean Fairy stood beside Tang Zhang, but she couldn't remain calm. Looking at the majestic Dragon Clan army, her blood seemed to be boiling. She felt that this trip was worth it. Since ancient times, the Dragon Clan, which had always been high and mighty, was completely presented in front of her. It could be said that this was a scene that many people had never seen before. Even her father, the Celestial Emperor, had never seen before. Where's the Golden Dragon? He wasn't among the dragons. It turned out that he had led a team to hide in the Dragon Seal world. Now that the seal had weakened, the Dragon Seal world didn't have a time limit. Many dragons were eager to stay there. But sniping the dragon slayers in the Dragon Seal world wasn't a good job. If they weren't careful, their lives would be in danger. But the Golden Dragon volunteered and took the lead. He decided to bite this hard bone. After the Dragon King and the dragon envoys discussed, they agreed to the Golden Dragon's request and sent the Dragon Clan's elites to wait for the dragon slayers in the Dragon Seal world. "Let's go!" The Dragon King waved the spear in his hand and pointed it to the sky. The wind and clouds in the sky surged and the world changed color. A huge whirlpool was spinning rapidly. The spatial fluctuations were intense. Boom! With a loud bang, a door opened in the center of the whirlpool. A spatial door. The Dragon Clan was well versed in the laws of space and was good at traveling between different spaces. This was an innate advantage that other clans couldn't compare to. After the Dragon Slayers devoured the Dragon Soul, they also gained this talent, which was why they could hunt down the dragon race in various worlds. At this moment, the dragon army will pass through space. The gate led directly to the Dragon Slayer's lair, the ancient dragon domain. Step by step, the Dragon King walked toward the spatial gate. He stepped into the air, and the other dragons quickly followed him. The mighty team stretched from the surface of the sea to mid-air. Tang Zhang and the Empyrean Fairy stepped into the air and approached the portal step by step. Looking at the spatial gate, the Empyrean Fairy was shocked. She knew very well that to allow so many dragons to pass through the spatial gate, one must have a very deep understanding of the laws of space. She glanced at Tang Zhang beside her and saw that his expression was as calm as water. Could it be that he could do it? Tang Zhang had fused with 2 more dragon god fragments, and his comprehension of the laws of space had reached a new level. However, it was impossible for him to let so many dragons pass through the spatial gate at once. Similarly, neither the Dragon King nor any of the dragon envoys could do it. This shocking effect was achieved by combining the powers of the Dragon King and the dragon envoys. Everything turned dark, and Tang Zhang and the others had already stepped into the spatial gate. After a while, the scene before them lit up again. A new spatial gate slowly opened in front of them. Whoosh whoosh. The dragon race's breathing involuntarily quickened. Once they crossed this gate, danger and battle would welcome them.
The Dragon King took the lead, and Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy followed closely behind. The dazzling light was blinding, and everyone looked up. The fiery red sun hung high in the sky, and the heat was unbearable. It was as if it was going to catch fire. The biting cold wind blew, and it was as if knives were scraping their cheeks painfully. Looking down, the boundless blue color struck their eyes, and it was as if there was a hint of coolness. Before everyone could take a closer look and reflect on the difference between this and the new dragon domain, a majestic ray of light shot from afar. "Be careful!" Tang Zheng shouted. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Rays of sharp light also shot out from the dragon race. Boom! The explosion was earth-shattering, and it was as if the sky had been torn open. The air currents were abnormally violent. The dragon race was thrown off their feet and scattered in all directions. The spatial gate trembled violently, as if it was going to collapse at any time. "Be careful of the spatial gate." Tang Zheng leaped and rushed to the front of the spatial gate. He used the spatial laws to stabilize the spatial gate. The Dragon King also realized the seriousness of the problem and reminded loudly, "We have been discovered. Prepare for battle and protect the spatial gate." The dragon race, the army was huge, and they could not pass through the spatial gate in a short time. Therefore, they had to buy time for the dragon race behind them. The few dragon envoys stood guard in front of the spatial gate and looked around cautiously. Boom! A water column soared into the sky, directly rushing to the 9 heavens. Even at such a height, the power of the water pillar was exceptionally terrifying. It carried with it a destructive aura, and it was aimed directly at the spatial gate. If the spatial gate was hit, it would definitely collapse. Who knew how many dragon race members would be sealed in the space-time turbulence, never to be found again? They would die without a doubt. The dragon race knew this very well. Thus, a series of dragon roars rang out, and the 8 dragon envoys transformed into true dragons. The huge true dragon body lay across the sky, almost occupying half of the sky. This formed an indestructible protective wall, and the water droplets hit the dragon body. The dragon scales intertwined together like a golden shield. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of impact was incessant, but the dragon scales only trembled slightly. It was not a big deal, and the spatial gate was successfully protected. However, it was not over yet. A black dot flew over from afar. It was extremely fast, like a meteorite. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. No, it was not a meteorite. It was a mountain. A mountain was flying toward them at an extremely fast speed. One could imagine how powerful it was. "I'll go." Tang Zheng took the lead and turned into a ray of light to meet the mountain. Whoosh! A ray of sword light flew out from his hand and floated in the air. The sword light grew bigger and bigger, reaching above the 9 heavens. The hidden mystic sword. This sword light was the hidden mystic sword. The sacred pattern of the Tao flowed on the hidden mystic sword, emitting a sharp aura. Tang Zheng stood in the air, staring at the mountain peak that was getting closer and closer. "Break!" Tang Zheng roared. The hidden mystic sword flew out and fell from the sky, directly piercing through the mountain. The huge mountain was like a piece of tofu, and the hidden mystic sword easily pierced through it. The momentum of the mountain stopped abruptly and lost its attacking power. It was cut in half and fell from the sky, splashing huge waves in the sea. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank. He saw a floating mountain in the distance, and there seemed to be a figure flashing. Dragon Slayer. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.